Suemo was carrying a bunch of snacks back to his dorm. However, when he happily pushed open the door, a birthday cake was suddenly smashed into his face. His roommate said happy birthday and asked if the cake tasted good, but Suemo couldn't breathe and collapsed straight down. His roommates hurriedly shook his body, trying to wake him up, but he had already suffocated from the cream cake. Unexpectedly, he died at just 20 years old. He hadn't lived enough. However, Sumo's expression became blank as he arrived at a very luxurious heaven. At this time, a male angel approached him with a smile, introducing himself as his exclusive guide. Then he took out a chicken for him to confirm his reincarnation identity. Suemo couldn't believe he was going to be reborn as a chicken. He angrily accused them of being inhumane. Guide Xiaobai directly kicked his butt, telling him to hurry up and reincarnate. He held onto the reincarnation door frame tightly, refusing to go in. He couldn't help crying about how hard it was to be human. Xiaobai stroked his chin, saying there might be a way to remain human. They now had several scripts, and Suemo could stay human if he served as a tester. Suemo didn't know what being a tester meant. Xiaobai explained that he just needed to experience life in the script and test its feasibility. After completing the experience, he could not only revive in real life, but also get a boyfriend. Suemo thought such good things couldn't happen to an unlucky person like him. It must be a trap, so he immediately crossed his arms, showing his unwillingness. However, Xiaobai accidentally spoiled that the male lead was a handsome and wealthy man. Suemo changed his mind and said he was willing to experience life. Xiaobai said he needed to reach 100 favorability to enter the next script. Even without experience, Suemo was still confident. Getting a man would be too easy. Xiaobai directly kicked him into the reincarnation door, telling him not to disappoint. However, he wasn't ready and could only scream while covering his head. Suemo suddenly sat up, calling out Qin Jinxing's name. The man immediately came forward to check on him. He responded awkwardly. The distance between them was very close, and the atmosphere became ambiguous. However, a gun suddenly pressed against his head. Suemo tremblingly pushed the gun away gently, but his hand was suddenly grabbed forcefully. Qin Jinxing thought he was trying to play tricks and told him to sign quickly. Even though he banged on the table indicating his hand was about to break, the man still fiercely ordered him to sign. Suemo finally calmed down to look at the agreement on the table, but when he saw the content clearly, he was shocked. This was treating him like a mobile blood bank. They wanted his life. Qin Jinsheng slightly lifted his chin, mentioning Yiya's illness from before, asking why he was unwilling to be a blood bank for half a year. Then he told the bodyguard to watch Suemo. He couldn't leave without signing. He slammed the door shut when leaving. Suemo pulled open the curtains wanting to escape through the window, but he found he was on a very high floor. So he quickly turned around, thinking he needed to figure out what was going on first. He snapped his fingers to summon the system. Xiaobai immediately asked what was wrong. He grabbed the other's collar, demanding to know if this script was meant to kill him. Xiaobai pulled out the script, asking Suemo to understand the plot and character settings first. He grabbed the script, determined to see for himself. Why did the male lead hate this character so much? It turned out he and Qin Jinxing were married, but that person didn't like him at all. The one called Yi should be the third party. However, the next second, he discovered that Qin Jinxing was actually an M. It seems this script was downloaded from some sketchy website about CEO novels. Suemo continued flipping through the pages. However, as he was reading, the page suddenly showed to be unlocked. Xiaobai thought this made it more exciting. He summarized one characteristic of M-type CEOs. The worse others treat them, the more they like it. Just let that person know what it's like to be coldly rejected, and he'll become an obedient puppy. At this moment, Qin Jinxing suddenly returned, frightening Suemo stiff. Finding the document still unsigned, he asked if he never planned to leave in this lifetime. He snorted coldly, secretly thinking he must conquer this M. So he righteously declared that even if he died here, he wouldn't donate a drop of blood. Qin Jinsheng was shocked by these words. Suemo thought he had sensed his uniqueness, so he directly proposed divorce. Unexpectedly, the other person grabbed his neck and pinned him against the wall, asking him to repeat what he just said, saying he could fulfill his desire to die. Suemo didn't expect things to turn out like this. He just wanted to know what to do now. Suemo decided to take back his words. With teary eyes, he said they could take as much bone marrow as they wanted. Qin Jinxing paused, saying they had actually found another bone marrow donor. Now, they needed to go home. When the car stopped, Qin Jinxing handed Su Mo a black card. He glanced at it saying he didn't need it, but was secretly overjoyed. It turned out the other person found his clothes disgusting and worried about his grandfather, thinking he escaped from a mental hospital. This was Su Mo's first time shopping without looking at prices. Being the female lead felt quite good. At this moment, a mocking voice came from behind. He turned around. It was Lu Qingqing asking if he was working as a housekeeper for rich people. She didn't forget to ask him to come clean her house too. Su Mo didn't expect the drama scene to come so quickly. He was very excited. Lu Qingqing thought he was pretending to be mute. He claimed he was just a bit excited, which she found contemptible. She thought he was speechless because it was his first time in such a high-end place. Lu Qingqing acted coquettishly to the man beside her, saying she wanted the clothes in Su Mo's hands. The man immediately agreed to buy the entire store. They looked deeply in love. Su Mo realized rich people all like this type. He needed to learn from this. So in his mind appeared a scene of himself acting cute with Qin Jinxing. Lu Qingqing pointed at the shopping bag in his hand, saying she wanted that piece and would pay him extra. He told Lu Qingqing to look in the bathroom mirror and not think too highly of herself. She trembled with anger, grabbed her coffee, and splashed it at him, yelling at him to know his place. The shopping bag was stained with coffee. Sumontak Angrili demanded an apologie, but Lu Qingqing thought it was his fault for not taking good care of the clothes. She reminded him that he had now lost both money and face, and his employer would surely fire him when they found out. She also mocked that he couldn't afford these clothes. Just then someone said he could afford it. They both turned around to see Qin Jinxing standing nearby with a gloomy face. He pointed out that he could afford these clothes, and one should consider the owner before beating the dog. Lu Qingqing stepped back repeatedly, still thinking Su Mo was his housekeeper. Su Mo nodded frantically, though internally not wanting any connection with him. However, his face was suddenly grabbed. Qin Jinxing pulled him into his arms, declaring this was his wife, and indulgently asked why he wasn't showing his usual quick wit to make him proud today. Seeing this sudden change in attitude, Su Mo thought his method was working. Lu Qingqing was shocked to learn that Su Mo was Qin Jinxing's wife. Qin Jinxing glared at her, asking if she thought his wife was easy to bully. She waved her hand, saying that wasn't what she meant, just that Su Mo wasn't worthy. He questioned whether she was worthy herself, leaving her only able to grit her teeth. Seeing this, Su Mo thought being rich was really nice. Then Qin Jinxing took the shopping bag from his hand and threw it away, telling Lu Qingqing to wear it. She raised her hand wanting to explain, but Qin Jinxing ignored her. He directly pulled Su Missouri close, saying grandfather was waiting for them. He felt thoroughly refreshed by this first victory. Then they left arm in arm, leaving the two standing there awkwardly. At the car, Qin Jinxing told him to let go. He respectfully thanked him. The man asked why he had become so incapable. He thought this showed concern, but actually, he just didn't want grandfather to think he wasn't treating him well. Otherwise, he would definitely have left him there to fend for himself. Su Mo was very curious about who this grandfather was, who could make this heartless man so obedient. It seemed he needed to study the script more carefully. Looking at the villa before him, Su Mo thought it was even more exaggerated than on TV. Qin Jinxing looked at the excited person in the distance, thinking his brain was broken. After a while, he realized these clothes weren't suitable for meeting grandfather. But Qin Jinxing thought even beautiful clothes couldn't save his face, so don't waste time. After the door opened, they walked in arm. Grandfather immediately came out to welcome Su Mo. He obediently greeted him. However, grandfather kindly asked if he was pregnant. He froze upon hearing this, only able to claim it wasn't that quick. He also understood why someone had pretended to be affectionate with him. Qin Jinxing seriously claimed they were trying. Grandfather then mentioned seeing him frequently going to the hospital lately. These words made him very nervous. Su Mo hadn't expected the big CEO would have moments of submission. He stepped forward to take grandfather's hand, promising to tell him first when there was good news. At this moment, the system showed Qin Jinxing's favorability increased by 5. Seeing his softened expression, Su Mo confirmed he had a tsundere personality that responded to gentleness rather than force. Grandfather hurriedly pushed them back to the room to rest. He reminded them the room was soundproof. No one would disturb them, then closed the door and shouted good luck. Before Su Mo could finish his praise, he turned to find a pile of intimate items on the bed. Su Mo asked Qin Jinxing if he prepared these things, surprised he was that kind of person. Qin Jinxing slowly approached, asking what he just called him. He turned around to see the man staring staring at him like a fierce tiger, which frightened him. He tremblingly asked what he should call him. Qin Jinsheng forced him to sit on the bed, telling him to say it himself. He recalled today's events. He was shocked to realize he wanted him to call him husband. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly pressed down on him, claiming they shouldn't disappoint grandfather and should get to business. Suemo thought, finally the classic scene from the CEO novel has appeared. Now he just needed to put up token resistance, then let things proceed. Using a standard back grappling technique, he proudly introduced that he was the weightlifting champion at his elementary school. Suemo gave Qin Jinsheng a choice. Either give up his intentions or stay in this position. They remained deadlocked. He hadn't expected this woman to be so strong. After confirming he couldn't break free, he decided to compromise. Suemo felt proud of himself, claiming he made the right decision. Qin Jinsheng recalled the past, when Suemo would only cry when faced with other schemes and would humbly beg him to marry her. But looking at the woman before him now, he felt they were completely different people. Just then, grandfather sent a message calling them for dinner. Suemo quickly rushed out the door. Qin Jinsheng felt he understood him less and less, then left the room as well. After dinner, grandfather asked if they really wouldn't stay overnight. Sumo declined, citing Qin Jinsheng's busy work schedule. Grandfather told them to be careful and reminded them to hurry up having children. He outwardly agreed, but thought differently inside. The car stopped at Earl Garden, and Suemo got out alone. Just as he bowed in thanks, the car's engine started again. Before he could finish speaking, he was covered in exhaust fumes. He was furious after getting a face full of dust. Suemo found his best friend Wan Li, pitifully claiming he was homeless. However, before he could finish, the door closed in his face. 15 minutes later, he knocked again with 2 portions of pork noodles and finally got in. Wan Li asked if he was unwilling to go back, and he nodded numbly. She poked his head, asking why he had insisted on marrying Qin Jinsheng back then. He wanted to know the reason too, but he had cried so miserably then that Wan Li didn't dare ask. Wan Li got up to take a shower, telling him to eat quickly and go to sleep. He pondered what had actually happened back then, so he snapped his fingers to summon the system. Xiaobai appeared immediately. Suemo wanted to check Qin Jinsheng's current favorability towards him. Xiaobai told him it increased by 30 points today. He cried, consoling himself that it only dropped by 30. However, when he realized it had increased, he was extremely shocked. He quickly scrolled to the system page, pointing at the favorability data, saying it should be 35. Xiaobai pointed out that he had cursed at their first meeting, causing the favorability to become negative. Remembering how he called Qin Jinsheng a cheater, Suemo turned to stone. He couldn't help but kneel down, lamenting his grave sin. However, when he learned that favorability could be exchanged for items, he suddenly became excited again. Xiaobai reminded him it was only 30 favorability points. So he knelt down again, sighing that life wasn't worth living. Just then, Qin Jinsheng sent a friend request. It turned out he needed him to attend a banquet and would pick him up for makeup and styling first. Suemo was very excited. He had never been to such a fancy place. Just thinking about the food made him drool. Xiaobai couldn't help but hit him. Even with a bump on his head, he was still very proud, thinking he would conquer everyone with his acting. The receptionist respectfully opened the car door. Suemo made a dazzling entrance in formal wear. Qin Jinsheng was about to compliment her beauty, but seeing her affected manner, he decided to take back his words. They walked arm in arm into the venue, with others discussing her. Suddenly, Manager Wang appeared, smiling sycophantically at Qin Jinsheng. Suemo, however, noticed the steak on a nearby table. He let go of Qin Jinsheng's arm and walked towards the steak with a dazed look. His eyes were full of food. He didn't notice a woman sticking out her foot, causing him to trip and fall to the ground. He still didn't know what had just happened or who had tripped him. The woman slowly approached, asking if he was Mr. Qin's legally wedded wife. The woman was asking Suemo contemptuously if he was Mr. Qin's legally wedded wife. He was very angry, thinking she should apologize for tripping him, but the woman denied it. She accused him of not watching where he was going, wondering what Mr. Qin saw in him. Suemo explained that he must have seen something in him that women like her didn't have, like class, for example. The woman was equally angry after hearing this. But Suemo switched to show-off mode, claiming he had so many clothes at home that throwing them away wouldn't matter. After saying this, he turned to leave. The woman pointed out from behind that he had used caring for old Mr. Chin as an excuse to climb into Mr. Chin's bed. Suemo was surprised she knew so much, thinking she had a script. She explained that she heard it all from Lu Qingqing. Suemo wasn't surprised at all. The woman continued approaching him, very curious about what methods he used to climb to this position. He was very angry hearing this and wanted to argue back. But suddenly a voice asked how to make Qin Jinsheng willingly marry her. She stepped back frightened, looking around to see who was speaking near her ear. The woman behind called out Mr. Qin, but Suemo thought it didn't sound like Qin Jinsheng. But when he clearly saw the handsome man before him, he felt his face was about to explode from blushing. He was too handsome. He immediately asked his name like a fanboy and wanted to invite him to watch a movie. The man asked Suemo if they could talk privately. He nodded vigorously, saying of course they could. Following behind the man, he thought to himself that he was about to reach life's peak. However, Qin Jinsheng, who was entertaining guests, noticed the situation. He excused himself from manager Wang and followed to check the situation. The man asked Suemo to answer the previous question. Why did the CEO of Qin Group marry him? He brazenly claimed it might be because he saw his shining points. The person sitting opposite gave a strange laugh. Suemo then wondered if they knew each other. The man replied they had met before, and he was still curious how Suemo could bear to harm a girl with leukemia. So he had always wanted to ask in person, and finally got the chance today. So Montag was Stund. Then numerous memories flooded his mind. He finally remembered this was Aya's brother, Qin Huan. Just then, Qin Jinsheng suddenly appeared, angrily grabbing his hand and asking what he was doing. Qin Huan coldly watched all this. Then he stood up, thinking Suemo was pretending not to recognize him, waiting for someone to rescue him. Qin Jinsheng shielded him behind his body and tried to take Suemo's hand to leave. But he shook it off, as he truly hadn't recognized Qin Huan. Moreover, about hiring someone, that was just their accusation. The perpetrator hadn't confessed, so why were they venting their anger at him? Qin Huan frowned and asked if he was refusing to confess. His answer was of course not, and he only acted as a blood donor because he saw Aya as a patient. But Qin Huan didn't want to hear more, feeling a few words wouldn't convince him. Suemo would produce evidence, and if she did it, she would apologize to Aya and get divorced. Qin Huan hoped she would keep her word, then turned and left. Suemo stood there angrily clenching his fists. Qin Jinsheng asked if he knew what he had just said. He smiled, thinking the other also believed that he would be the one apologizing in the end. Qin Jinsheng mentioned that back then, there was solid evidence of him hiring someone, and if not for grandfather's protection, he would have gone to jail. At this point, the system showed favorability -5. Suemo asked if he was sure the evidence was solid. To make two people willingly take the blame, money was most needed, and back then he couldn't have had that much money. Suemo confidently believed that poverty gave him the chance to save himself. Hearing his plea, Qin Jinsheng remained silent. At this point, the system showed favorability +20. Qin Jinsheng agreed to let him find evidence, but still couldn't stop attacking Aya. He took off his coat and put it on Suemo, making Suemo blush. Unexpectedly, he declared confidently that blood with bacteria couldn't be transfused. Suemo sat slumped on Wan Li's sofa, watching as Wan Li came out from his shower. He immediately threw away his face mask and sat up straight, saying he had something important to say. The other thought he had finally decided to move back, but he decided to stay here long-term instead. Wan Li's expression instantly turned disappointed. Suemo pitifully told him that Qin Jinsheng had another woman outside. He was shocked at first, then asked if that woman was Aya. Suemo nodded and asked how he knew. Unexpectedly, Wan Li told him that Aya was Qin Jinsheng's girlfriend from university. Hearing this, he suddenly felt like he was the third wheel. Wan Li rationally analyzed that they had already broken up back then, which made Suemo feel relieved. Wan Li flexed his muscles, saying with just one word from him, he'd have people bash their heads in. But he thought there was no need to worry. Divorce would be a relief for him. Moreover, just thinking about getting a huge sum after divorce made him extremely happy. Suemo came to the hospital alone, still wondering if Qin Jinsheng broke up because of him. Someone called him from behind, and he turned around. He found Qin Huan standing in front of him. Suemo asked why he was here. He answered he came to see Aya. Suemo smiled, saying he heard Aya wasn't doing well lately, so he came to visit. Qin Huan thought this was what he should do, suggesting not to be sarcastic every time since they had a tiny bit of blood relation. Unexpectedly, The other person asked contemptuously if he wanted him to accept him as his sworn sister. Su Mo didn't expect Qin Huan to see through his trick. He suggested if not accepting him as a sworn sister, he could try being his lover. Qin Huan felt he was deliberately provoking him, while he continued to act pitiful. Just then, the elevator door opened. Qin Jinsheng had just walked out when he saw the two struggling. He frowned, about to question them. Su Mo shouted that he was a married person and said the other's persistent entanglement made him very uncomfortable. Qin Huan was stunned, while the system showed increased favorability. Su Mo was very touched. Qin Jinsheng held her in his arms, warning Qin Huan to choose the right time and place for private matters. Before the other could react, the elevator door closed. Su Mo thanked him for helping. He turned and said he didn't want his wife struggling with other men. Su Mo secretly laughed that this was to gain favorability. But he suddenly noticed Qin Jinsheng's hand was injured. He recalled it might have been scratched when holding him just now. The other thought it was nothing, but still put a band-aid on the wound to prevent infection. Though Qin Jinsheng said it looked ugly, the favorability was rising rapidly. Su Mo told him to tear it off if he thought it was ugly, but he refused, citing fear of infection. When the elevator arrived, Su Mo walked out first. He looked at the band-aid on his hand, thinking it was quite cute. Su Mo stood outside the ward full of confidence, thinking he had won. But when about to meet the other person, he still nervously swallowed. The door was gently pushed open, and I had turned around glamorously calling Qin Jinsheng. However, Su Mo was surprised to find that the favorability stopped increasing. Su Mo thought I was like a signal jammer. Otherwise, why would the male lead's favorability drop offline as soon as they met? Qin Jinsheng asked if she was feeling better. She smiled, saying nothing hurt anymore once she saw him. Then she turned to Su Mo and asked why he came. Su Mo introduced himself as someone who came to treat her illness, patting his chest and guaranteeing his blood was clean and healthy. But Aya questioned who was responsible for her current condition. This made him feel that his first meetings with every NPC were strikingly similar. Aya didn't want his blood. He thought the statement came a bit late, because he had already been giving blood for half a year. She thought he was trying to atone and questioned why he had treated her that way before. Then she pitifully said she knew she was a burden and wouldn't compete with Su Mo, starting to sob and asking why he came to humiliate her. Su Mo fell into deep thought, realizing at this rate someone else would steal the show. So he started playing victim too, same for the past half year. He could only watch as his blood was drawn bit by bit. He asked Aya why she thought he was only there to humiliate her. Aya was speechless. Su Mo said if this could make Qin Jinsheng happy. He was willing to, but unexpectedly she cried and asked if he blamed her for pursuing Qin Jinsheng. He could only scratch his head helplessly in response. Aya promised to keep her distance from Jinsheng, begging Su Mo to let her go. But before she could finish speaking, she fainted. Qin Jinsheng anxiously called her name and quickly ran to catch her. The system showed -5 favorability. Su Mo felt everything happened too suddenly. Qin Jinsheng asked if this was the result he wanted to see, and the favorability dropped again. He felt he hadn't said anything wrong, but the other coldly drove him out. He stood silently facing the two. At this time, medical staff called Su Mo for blood collection. When he didn't respond, they called again. He turned and answered that he understood. Qin Jinsheng watched him leave with a gloomy face, gripping Aya's shoulders tightly. However, the person in his arms slightly curved her lips into a smile. Su Mo lay on the hospital bed getting blood drawn, regretting not fainting together earlier. Xiao Bai suddenly appeared, telling him he could now unlock hidden plots and enhance his attributes. However, it was limited to ordinary unknown plots. The main storyline still needed to be explored personally. He pondered that in the current situation, something must have gone wrong somewhere. He needed to understand why they broke up first to know why he was helping his love rival gain attention. Xiao Bai knocked him out with a stick, making him enter a memory. Grandpa Qin came to the hospital to see Aya, his tone full of mockery and dissatisfaction, because he used the Qin family name to compete with a child for bone marrow transplant rights. He frantically explained he didn't do that, and Qin Jinsheng also spoke up for him. Grandpa Qin sternly warned that he had no right to meddle in Qin family affairs and would never be allowed into the Qin family. He tried to throw dirt on Su Mo's name to seek Qin Jinsheng's sympathy, but but he left disappointed. Suemo was suddenly pulled back to reality. He thought Qin Jinsheng wanted to delete him, but later realized he was overthinking. He was picked up, and the system indicated a plus 15 increase in favorability. Though he didn't know why, at least his life was saved. Qin Jinsheng rarely played nice, so he took advantage and made the man carry him upstairs until his arms went numb. When teased about being fat, he directly threatened that he might faint again from the shock. Qin Jinsheng told him to wait while he got water. As soon as the man left, Suemo immediately jumped around examining everything in the room, taking the chance to check if there were any secrets in his wardrobe. Suemo couldn't resist. The image of the handsome man made his nose bleed intensely. While looking for tissues, he found a photo of himself with two men. He suspected he might have had an affair before. Just then, Qin Jinsheng returned. He quickly hid the photo and asked for some tissues. Qin Jinsheng told him not to push himself when feeling unwell in the future. Suemo understood that playing victim was the correct way to gain favorability. He immediately put this into practice, and sure enough, the other's favorability increased by 10. Qin Jinsheng suddenly moved closer to Suemo. He instantly panicked, unable to stop his nosebleed, making the man chuckle. At the current rate, he felt winning over the man was within reach. Now that he had stabilized the male lead, it was time to focus on dealing with the green tea. The two women met at a cafe. Suemo was vengeful. Last time her fake fainting cost him 50 favorability points. Today he would take everything back. After eating and drinking, she firmly rejected the other's request to leave Qin Jinsheng. I had tried to attack her emotionally, hoping Suemo would back off, but this tactic didn't work on her at all. Suemo frankly admitted she was with Qin Jinsheng for money, free food, entertainment, and even hospital privileges. Since there were no feelings between them, they could each do their own thing. How wonderful. Aya didn't expect her to break from the usual script and tried to fake fainting again, but was stopped. Suemo had no time for her act. If she could get Qin Jinsheng to give her more money, why not? Aya hadn't expected Suemo to be so unreasonable, but she could solve the money issue herself. Suemo was glad they finally got to the real topic. For the first scam, she thought it best not to be too greedy. Steady progress was key. Originally planning to use divorce to gain favorability, now someone was paying her to divorce. This opportunity couldn't be missed. Aya transferred 500,000 yuan, hoping for quick results. Taking the money for the job, Suemo directly asked Qin Jinsheng to come to the cafe to discuss divorce. Aya left first, not caring whether Suemo would actually divorce, confident she had ways to make the other disappear. Qin Jinsheng arrived at the cafe, and Suemo formally proposed divorce. Qin Jinsheng didn't know what trick Suemo was playing and asked if she was certain about divorcing. Committed to the act, Suemo displayed an understanding attitude, gaining 10 favorability points. Seeing this, Qin Jinsheng agreed, saying he'd have someone draft the agreement and ensure fair property division. Suemo couldn't hide her excitement at the unexpected gain, which greatly displeased the man opposite. Worried about not getting the money, she quickly hid her smile, waving it off as happiness for his upcoming happiness. Though somewhat fake, Qin Jinsheng chose not to pursue it further and stood to leave. Just as Suemo was thinking about how to celebrate, he unexpectedly returned. He asked why she had begged to marry him back then. Unable to explain, he left without pressing further when she couldn't answer. Suemo wondered if Qin Jinsheng had fallen for her, asking such strange questions, already imagining a dramatic scenario. Xiao Bai appeared to bring him back to reality, wanting to ask about the previous memory, noting the bump still on his head. Xiao Bai explained it was a method to unlock memories, with an 80% success rate and 20% mortality rate. Now that the male lead's favorability had reached 60, new plot lines could be unlocked, such as adding a new character to help him win over the male lead. This unlock is safe and will randomly drop within 3 days. If missed, there won't be a second chance. After setting up the plot, Xiao Bai disappeared again. Though Suemo wasn't sure who the new character would be, he just needed to pay attention to new people around him. For now, he should go pay the bill. Xiao Bai suddenly appeared again, having forgotten to tell Suemo that while the unlock method was safe, it didn't mean subsequent events would be safe. He could only wish Suemo would survive until the end. Early morning, lawyer Su Peiyong came to pick up Suemo to sign the divorce agreement. The drowsy Suemo instantly woke up. The person before him was like a money-bearing treasure. His quick signing shocked lawyer Qin Jinxing, offering $30 million and a house as compensation. If unsatisfied, further negotiation was possible. Su Mo was already lost in dreams of waking up in a 300-square-meter bed every day. Fearing they might change their mind, he quickly signed the agreement. Though the lawyer couldn't understand why Qin Jinxing married such a money-hungry woman. But he felt their divorce must be because Mr. Qin had seen through her true nature. After happily signing the agreement, Su Mo ran into Qin Jinxing. He felt he appeared too happy. The other might take back the property given to him. Fortunately, Qin Jinxing didn't pursue it. He took out the agreement, pointing to his name, telling the other that once he signed, the agreement would take effect. Though displeased, Qin Jinxing still signed the agreement. They would have no connection from now on. Handing the agreement to Su Mo, though he looked sad, the system indicated increased favorability. Su Mo felt close to completing the game. Though divorced now, they needed to stay in touch for favorability. After everything was done, Su Mo quickly said goodbye and left the office. Qin Jinxing recalled his moments with Su Mo and left with a gloomy face. Su Mo went to a noodle shop, calculating the approaching game completion. He should ask Xiao Bai about the next plans to prepare for the next world. Suddenly, a man across from him caught his attention. Thinking carefully, it was the man he'd seen in the photo that day. He guessed the hint was that photo, and the new character was this man before him. The man looked dangerous. Approaching directly might be risky. He cowered as the owner brought noodles to Su Mo, successfully catching the man's attention. But just as he approached, the owner blocked him with packed noodles. Su Mo escaped danger. The owner warned him to be careful, saying that man was capable of anything bad. The man was a thug, arrested 6 months ago, and recently released but still causing trouble. Su Mo wondered why the original owner would associate with such a person. To find out, he decided to follow and see. In his hurry, he forgot to pay and left the divorce agreement behind. He suspected this person must be connected to Aya's injury. Sure enough, following him, he saw the other man from the photo. The two were discussing their encounter with Su Mo, thinking they hadn't been recognized. Su Mo started recording with his phone. It turned out they had deliberately framed Su Mo before, and now feared he might reopen the case for investigation. But the bald man assured Scarface not to worry, saying Su Mo was too cowardly. He definitely wouldn't dare gather evidence. Su Mo prepared to return to Qin Jinxing for an apology. Before he could finish celebrating, Aya knocked him out with a stick. When he woke up, he was tied up in a warehouse. The guarding Scarface didn't want trouble, saying he wouldn't deal with murder. Aya took out the recording, telling him with a slight threat that he was helping them. Scarface knew they feared getting caught and being dragged down. Su Mo couldn't see outside the door, but the voice sounded familiar. Aya admitted Scarface was right. He didn't care about Su Mo's fate, as long as it didn't interfere with his marriage to Qin Jinxing. Su Mo noticed Scarface only looked fierce but wouldn't harm him, so he decided to make a deal. Though scared, he still relied on his silver tongue to negotiate with the other party. He analyzed the whole situation for them, and when they showed signs of wavering, he suggested they let him go. But they didn't follow the script. The ropes got tighter instead. Just as he was about to negotiate again, Su Mo's phone rang. It was Qin Jinxing calling. Scarface instantly agreed to Su Mo's proposal. Surprisingly, the CEO's reputation was quite useful. For the first time, he felt the man's voice was heavenly. The call suddenly cut off. Qin Jinxing became worried. The noodle shop owner had seen the divorce agreement and wanted to return it, mentioning this to him. Qin Jinxing was concerned. His secretary rushed in to tell him Su Mo had been kidnapped. Su Mo's situation wasn't good either. A huge roar had interrupted his call earlier. Scarface noticed his black earring, but he didn't know its significance. Aya called to warn Scarface to escape quickly. The police had the information and would soon arrest him. The earring was actually a listening device. Su Mo knew nothing about all this. Seeing Scarface ready to silence him, he became frightened. However, he quickly questioned how they knew about the listening device in his ear. Scarface also realized something was wrong. Suddenly, a car rushed toward them, sending them flying. Aya got out of the car. This was all his plan. Aya first deleted the call records from Scarface's phone. then grabbed Su Mo's head, removed the earring, and threw it away. Everything he did was for himself. Qin Jinsheng arrived with the police. He knelt on the ground, acting vulnerable, waiting for comfort. He strode towards Su Mo, anxiously checking his condition. With his last breath, Su Mo complained that he came too late, then fell unconscious. After putting him in the ambulance, he noticed Ayin nearby. He wondered why this woman was here. Police told him she reported it and provided the exact location. Aya twisted the truth, making up a story about seeing Su Mo arguing with a man, getting knocked out and taken away. He claimed to have followed out of concern and accidentally hit them while trying to save Su Mo. His story contradicted the noodle shop owners, raising Qin Jinsheng's suspicions. He tried acting vulnerable to get the man's attention, about to hug him, but was subtly avoided. Having police take Ayu away, Qin Jinsheng needed to accompany Su Mo to the hospital. The unconscious Su Mo saw Xiao Bai. Before fully awake, a 10-ton hammer came at his face. He instantly woke up. Wan Li cried with excitement, having been ready to order a coffin. Wan Li asked if he felt unwell, then discovered he had lost his voice. Face reddened, unable to make a sound. The system had malfunctioned and was repairing, crying silently. Despite having the female lead script, fate was so rough. Just as Qin Jinsheng arrived at the hospital, he saw Wan Li's anxious figure running to the ward. Hearing only the doctor say, "Not possible," he thought Su Mo was gone. He pushed everyone aside and hugged him, crying loudly. Actually, the doctor was saying no to pork feet noodles. Realizing his overreaction, CEO Qin awkwardly coughed twice. As for why Su Mo lost his voice, the doctor didn't know yet and could only keep him under observation. Su Mo guessed it might be a system malfunction and would only recover after repairs were complete. He was happy with his best friend and lover's company. Suddenly, Aya's voice came from outside. He recognized it as the voice of the woman who wanted to kill him. Su Mo was shocked. This evil woman was actually working with the criminals. Aya pretended to be concerned, making Su Mo furious, but he couldn't speak. Qin Jinsheng comforted him to stay calm and tell him everything once he recovered. Fearing the evil woman would escape, he decided to write everything down. While writing frantically, Aya reached out to stop him. Acting pitiful, she admitted she had no choice but to hit him then. Su Mo was furious and insisted on writing down the whole story. Aya held on tightly and finally snatched the paper away. It was tough for speechless Su Mo. The doctor advised him to rest more. Wan Li went with the doctor to get medicine, telling Qin Jinsheng to pay for his wife. The shy CEO Qin was no longer the man Aya could manipulate with a simple fall. Su Mo knew he was more important now. Leaving the room, Qin Jinsheng told his secretary to watch the criminal and to check the surveillance footage from the streets where Su Mo disappeared. Also to investigate the incident from 6 months ago when Su Mo allegedly hired someone to hurt Aya. With only 2 people left in the room, Aya dropped her act and mocked Su Mo's inability to speak. Given his status, Qin Jinsheng definitely wouldn't believe what he said. Su Mo grabbed the paper and tore it up in front of her. The current Qin Jinsheng was different. She could perform a fake fall anytime. But he didn't care about that now, since the favorability points would rise quickly anyway. He handed the water pitcher to her, as Su Mo was thirsty. This feeling of triumph felt so good. Su Mo, still immersed in happiness, was brought back to reality by the cleaning lady. Remembered to throw torn paper in the trash. Days later, Su Mo saw the house on the divorce agreement was actually a villa. Qin Jinsheng worried about his safety living alone and hinted he could move back home. Su Mo found his behavior strange and worried about uncontrollable situations, so firmly refused. He gestured that they were divorced and should maintain distance. The criminal woke up and Qin Jinsheng rushed back to question Su Mo. At his villa, Aya lurked behind the door, waiting to strike. The secretary told Qin Jinsheng that Su Mo was hurt because he learned the truth about what happened 6 months ago. 6 months ago was a show orchestrated by Aya, who then blamed Su Mo. This car accident was also her doing. Qin Jinsheng couldn't believe Aya did all this just to become the Qin family's daughter-in-law. He recalled his grandfather's words and regretted not waking up to reality sooner. Suddenly, he sensed Su Mo was in danger. When he arrived at the villa, the raging fire before him made him lose control. He thought Suemo was inside. The woman, who had just returned from shopping, saw her house on fire and freaked out again. Qin Jinxing hugged her tightly, relieved she was safe. Suemo, only concerned about the house, became more agitated. Sumo's voice recovered, but the house was gone. Qin Jinxing told him not to worry about living with him for now. He'd buy him a new house. Qin Jinxing handed Suemo a cup of hot milk, concerned if his voice had fully recovered. He gave a messy explanation to brush off the matter. Qin Jinxing would investigate the fire himself, while comforting and helping dry his hair. He thought it was love at first, but realized it was just an illusion. When Qin Jinxing went to answer the phone, Xiao Bai appeared again. He had saved Suemo this time, sending him to the villa just in time to avoid casualties. Even so, Suemo didn't let go of his grip on his neck, blaming him for losing his voice. Xiao Bai explained it was an accident that happened while trying to save him. Embarrassed, Suemo finally released his grip and asked about the specific cause of the fire. These main plot points needed to be unlocked by himself or exchanged with favor points, rather than useless romantic filters. He thought revealing the truth about the fire to the male lead was more practical. Though it was one-time use, being only 8 points away from completion wasn't a big issue. A knock sounded at the door, and Suemo went to open it. The secretary reported to Qin Jinxing that the surveillance video caught the arsonist. It was Aya, who was now at the door. Qin Jinxing told his secretary to hand over both the surveillance footage and criminal recordings to the police and reinvestigate the case from 6 months ago. Suemo hadn't expected Aya to come, and she hadn't expected him to be alive. He mocked her shamelessness for coming to a married man's house late at night. Knowing all her plans had failed, Aya went crazy and pulled out a knife to stab Suemo. Qin Jinxing appeared just in time to block the attack, then turned to question Aya. Learning everything drove Aya even more insane. She wanted to kill Suemo, believing things could return to how they were before. Suemo grabbed her wrist, telling her to look at her blood-stained hands. The police arrived quickly, and Qin Jinxing held back the agitated Suemo to prevent injury. The still delusional Aya tried to resist, annoying him so much that his bandaging became rougher. Aya had no one to blame but herself for this situation. It was all self-inflicted. Qin Jinxing, who took a knife for her, started being unreasonable. For the last 8 favor points, Su Missouri could only choose to endure. After her persistent efforts, she was finally about to complete the game. She was already looking forward to what kind of handsome guy would be in the next scenario. She made Qin Jinxing a dark-looking noodle dish, giving off the vibe of wanting to poison him and inherit his fortune. Actually, Qin Jinxing wanted to remarry her, but before he could finish speaking, his phone rang. Qin Huan wanted to discuss Aya's matter with Suemo, so they arranged to meet at a cafe. Not telling Qin Jinxing who he was meeting made the man's imagination run wild. Qin Huan got straight to the point, apologizing for Aya's actions and hoping Suemo could forgive his sister. Then he asked to withdraw the lawsuit, standing up and bowing deeply. Telling him such formality wasn't necessary. He needed to hear the reason first. Qin Huan explained that Aya was in poor health and couldn't handle prison. He wanted to settle privately, saying they would fulfill whatever demands Suemo made. He wasn't a saint, having nearly died 3 times. If she could experience the same pain he went through, he would consider reconciliation. Qin Huan thought since he was fine now, there was no need to pursue Aya's responsibility. Suemo was speechless, thinking this man had terrible character. Qin Jinxing, who had followed them, sat behind Suemo and ordered water. He hid behind a menu, eavesdropping on their conversation, acting very suspiciously. Suemo couldn't believe Qin Huan was so shameless, forcing him to let Aya go. The system hinted that Qin Jinxing was right behind, so he immediately went into acting mode. With tears and snot, he claimed everything was for Qin Jinxing's sake, completely confusing the man across from him. The emotional performance made the CEO rise angrily, pulling his woman close to assert his ownership. Qin Huan saw through Su Mo's deliberate act, but it didn't matter to him, and Qin Jinxing cared even less. When Qin Huan tried to persist, he was directly warned to shut his mouth and stop thinking about reconciliation. The car was quiet. Despite Su Mo's efforts, his favor rating remained stuck at 99. He suspected Xiao Bai was malfunctioning again, or perhaps he needed to follow the plot to clear the game. Looking at the script, he found that the following scenes were all indescribable. Qin Jinxing asked why he didn't tell him about meeting Qin Huan. On the surface, it was for his sake, but inside he thought differently. He didn't want to be a babysitter for another month. The sweet talk moved the man, but the favor rating still didn't break 100. Suemo felt Xiaobai was just playing with him, so he turned away and sulked. Back home, Grandfather Qin was waiting and immediately asked about baby making, even recommending pregnancy programs. Just as he was about to refuse, Qin Jinsheng pulled him down to study together. Soon after, he took him back to their room. Grandfather Qin encouraged them to work hard. Facing such a familiar scene, Suemo wondered if he should use his fainting technique again. Qin Jinsheng took something out from the drawer. Suemo was ready for battle. Then the other person got down on one knee and proposed to him. The dinosaur egg-sized diamond nearly blinded him as the man sincerely apologized. Suemo wondered if he could take such a large diamond ring with him after clearing the game. Though the house was gone, the divorce agreement was still valid, and he wouldn't return the money. As he put on the diamond ring, Qin Jinsheng hoped they could start anew. The diamond was too dazzling, and the little money lover couldn't look away. He left all wedding arrangements to him, just needing to be notified when it was time. Hand in hand, they went to tell Grandfather Qin they would hold another wedding ceremony. 3 days later, major media reported their wedding news. The sleeping Suemo was taken away and directly dressed for the wedding venue. The priest read the vows, and the newlyweds received blessings. After the ceremony, he didn't expect the wedding to be so tiring. Just as he was about to lie down to sleep, suddenly remembered there was one last thing to do after getting married. The drunk groom arrived. Helping him to bed, Suemo went to get a towel to wipe his face. Already exhausted, Suemo wasn't in the mood to hear him ramble, so he wiped randomly to shut him up. Back when he was kidnapped, Qin Jinsheng was really worried about him, begging Suemo not to leave him. To clear the game, although he was an innocent NPC, he had no choice but to deceive him. Otherwise, he'd have to go back to being slaughtered like a chicken. The emotional man kissed the guilt-ridden woman. Suemo didn't refuse, considering it a small compensation. When the intimacy reached 100, Suemo turned back into a soul, about to enter the next level. She could choose to watch a bit longer. Without lingering, Suemo turned and left. Qin Jinsheng seemed to sense something, turning his head in the direction he left. For his first successful completion, the system rewarded him with the chance to choose Episode 2. Among the extremely abnormal options, he chose the third Episode 2. Added hidden targetable objectives, though the system discouraged player behavior, suggesting loyalty instead. Forced to accept, opening his eyes again, he stepped onto a high glass walkway. Suemo entered the second episode world, standing at the cliff's edge, his feet trembling. The male lead approached him, gently persuading him to come closer. Xiaobai suddenly appeared, warning Suemo that this episode was hell-level difficulty. Every step must be careful. Hearing this, Suemo felt indignant. Why was he facing hell-level difficulty right after entering the second episode? Taking advantage of Sumo's distraction, Xiaobai suddenly pushed him. Suemo lost balance and fell right into the male lead's embrace. The male lead caringly reminded him to be careful, stroking his hair, asking if he was tired from recent filming work. Suemo felt awkward and told him he was just afraid of heights. The male lead apologized, admitting he shouldn't have brought him to this dangerous place without knowing his situation. Suemo said it was fine, just afraid of heights. He felt this male lead was very attentive and upright, quite different from the hell-level description. The male lead held Sumo's hand tightly, comforting him and telling him not to worry. Suemo stood still, not fully understanding the current situation. They climbed to the mountaintop together. Suemo was exhausted and collapsed into a chair. Yet until now, Suemo still couldn't detect the hell-level aspect of this episode. The male lead was gentle, handsome, sunny, and considerate. He began to wonder if the male lead was like Qin Jinsheng, hiding some special attribute that would only show when his trigger point was touched. The male lead handed Suemo an ice cream, and he came up with a plan. Suemo deliberately let the ice cream drip on the male lead's clothes to test his reaction. However, the male lead only worried about Sumo's ice cream getting dirty. Hearing his response, Suemo was shocked, completely different from his expectations. Not giving up, Suemo continued to provoke by smearing ice cream on him. The male lead held Sumo's hand and patiently told him, "Dirty clothes can be washed, but the ice cream is more important." He asked Suemo to wait a moment while he went to buy another ice cream. Watching the male lead's departing figure, Suemo began to wonder if he had entered the wrong script. As night fell, the male lead took Suemo home. Suemo expressed sincere gratitude. The male lead waved goodbye, telling him to rest well and promising to pick him up on time for the film set tomorrow. Sumo also reminded him to be careful on his way. After the male lead left, Sumo quickly summoned Xiao Bai. He asked Xiao Bai what was going on with their episode difficulty, wondering if it was set backwards from hell to beginner level. This male lead seemed even easier to deal with than the previous one. Sumo felt the day's strategy went unusually smoothly. The male lead was extremely gentle with him, even buying him 10 ice creams. However, when he checked the favorability rating, he was shocked to find it had dropped to -2 instead of increasing. After the male lead left, he felt his clothes were too dirty. He had been trying hard to tolerate Sumo's mischief, hoping to gain more resources through him. Sumo never expected the favorability to be negative. Despite getting along well with the male lead, he hadn't received any notifications about favorability changes. Xiao Bai explained that from this episode on, the system would no longer prompt favorability fluctuations. Sumo needed to check and adjust his strategy plan himself. Hearing this news, Sumo felt uneasy. He didn't know which words would increase favorability or which would trigger landmines. If he couldn't find the right strategy direction in time, what he might max out wouldn't be the male lead's favorability, but his disgust value. By then, he might only be reborn as a chicken. Xiao Bai reminded him to read the script first, understand the general plot and character settings before starting the strategy. Sumo decided to study the script first. This episode's story takes place in the entertainment industry. His character is set as a popular female star, while the male lead Yang is a newly debuted unknown actor. Sumo was immersed in his fantasy, fantasizing about owning villas and gardens, no longer needing to rely on divorce to get rich. Xiao Bai punched him awake, telling him to put away his weird thoughts and focus on the plot. Sumo and Yang belonged to the same agency and had roles in the same show. The script said they'd only known each other for 2 months, just ordinary colleagues, but yesterday they looked like a couple. Sumo flipped through the script, but only got a few pages before encountering locked plot points. He felt the script was useless, and the Hell Level episode didn't give many hints. Xiao Bai hoped Sumo could explore freely and unlock more strategy approaches, wishing him success in his upcoming strategy. Sumo wanted to ask more questions like what kind of person the male lead really was. However, Xiao Bai had already vanished without a trace. Sumo sighed about life's difficulties, noting how Xiao Bai always ran away at crucial moments. The next day, Sumo arrived at the film set. He finally understood what difficult mode meant. This male lead was truly hard to approach. The male lead always wore a smile, showing no normal emotional fluctuations except when filming. This made Sumo very frustrated, not knowing how to proceed with his strategy. At this moment, Yang walked up to Sumo, asking if she was feeling hot. He handed her a small fan and sat in front of her, chatting to keep her from getting bored. Looking at this harmonious atmosphere, Sumo thought this didn't seem like -20 favorability, but more like +200. He began to wonder what went wrong. Yang suddenly asked Sumo if there was any news about the audition she recommended at Wang Dao's place. Sumo said she had no memory of this. Hearing this, Yang brows furrowed slightly. That day they happened to meet director Wang at the restaurant. The director was casting for a new show, and Yang showed interest. Sumo kindly recommended her for an audition. This was the first time Sumo saw Yang show a different expression. She decided to start her strategy from here. She told Yang that she might not be suitable for that role, so she helped decline it. Upon hearing this news, Yang's face immediately darkened. She abruptly stood up, gripped the small fan tightly, then threw it violently to the ground. Sumo was startled by her reaction, thinking she was about to lose her temper. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her emotions, then walked to Sumo's side and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Sumo was terrified, thinking she had stepped on a landmine, afraid Yang would slap her or try to crush her skull. However, Yang just patted Sumo's head, casually saying it was fine if it was declined. She wouldn't be angry. Sumo found it hard to believe and asked if she really had no objections. After all, she had given up a chance to play a supporting role for her. Yang picked up the small fan, gently fanning her, praising her for being so considerate. If she said the role wasn't suitable, then it must not be. At this moment, the director called Sumo to film. Yang handed her the small fan and invited her to have hot pot after filming. Sumo readily agreed, wanting to see how long she could endure. Sumo and Yang arrived at the hot pot restaurant as planned. Sumo wrapped herself up completely, believing this was necessary attire for a celebrity, as all celebrities online dress this way. However, Yang told her such clothing was more suitable for winter, and it wasn't that time yet. Sumo fanned herself while eating meat heartily, arguing that she didn't feel hot. At this moment, Yang noticed paparazzi taking photos outside and devised a plan. Yang softly suggested Sumo let her guard down, as it was just the two of them, with no outside eyes. But Sumo still carefully observed her surroundings, worried about paparazzi capturing photos and causing rumors. This would bring unnecessary negative impact. Yang tried to ease her concerns, saying she wasn't afraid of outside comments. However, Sumo emphasized she was worried about damage to her own image. Then Yang noticed some soup on Sumo's lips and reached out to wipe it off. This moment was captured by the lurking paparazzi. Sumo quickly blocked Yang hand. She wiped away the stain herself. Yang hand awkwardly hung in midair. Sumo wasn't a girl easily manipulated. She could see through such tactics instantly. Yang felt displeased, crumpled the tissue into a ball, and accurately threw it into the trash bin. Sumo urged Yang to eat the meat quickly, saying it would become too soft if cooked too long. After dinner, Yang was responsible for safely sending Sumo home. Sumo waved goodbye and prepared to leave. However, Yang suddenly hugged her from behind. She quickly reacted and successfully dodged. As a result, Yang lost balance and fell to the ground. Sumo apologized, saying it was her instinctive reaction. Yang stood up from the ground, grabbed Sumo's wrist, questioning if her actions were intentional. Sumo pretended not to understand Yang's words. Actually, since yesterday, Yang had noticed Sumo was picking fights, even helping her decline roles. She angrily pushed Sumo to the ground. Sumo was shocked by Yang's words. After all, she had secured many valuable resources for her. Yang carelessly wiped her hands with a tissue, clearly having lost patience with this princess game. She found Sumo, this boring and obsessive woman, disgusting. So she threw the tissue beside Sumo. Then he crouched down, grabbed Sumo's chin, and spoke with malice, suggesting that Sumo had slept her way up from coordinator to investor to reach her current position by accompanying different sugar daddies. Sumo angrily swatted his hand away, retorting and accusing him not to judge everyone by his own disgusting thoughts. Yang was enraged by his words and attempted to slap Sumo. But Sumo swiftly blocked his hand. He admitted to playing with Yang, but warned him not to bother him anymore, or he would make him disappear completely from the entertainment industry. Sumo stood up, coldly shook off his hand, and turned to leave. Yang trembled with anger at his attitude. The next day, Sumo appeared on set with perfect makeup and attire. His beauty and elegance won everyone's praise. Yang looked at her with mixed feelings. She tried to pretend everything was normal, greeting Sumo as usual. However, Sumo ignored her and went straight to discuss today's scenes with the director. Yang stood there, her expression changing, not knowing what to do. She clenched her fists tightly, seemingly suppressing her inner rage. Sumo gave him a cold glance, then continued discussing today's scenes with the director. He decided to teach Yang a lesson, make him taste the bitterness of life, and understand the principle of gratitude. People around noticed Sumo's cold shoulder towards Yang and speculated if something had happened between them. Yang took a deep breath, trying to calm down and get back into character. Yang delivered her lines with deep emotion. "You clearly know he doesn't love you. Why are you still being so foolish?" Sumo was surprised by this. After all, it was the year 9105, and he hadn't expected audiences would still like this kind of plot. Yang stumbled over her lines. The director criticized her dissatisfiedly, asking what was wrong. She could only apologize and request another take. Sumo sat in his chair, drinking juice while looking at her with disdain. However, no matter how many takes, Yang kept stumbling over her lines. The director told her to memorize her lines first before continuing. Yang explained that she wasn't in good condition today. At this point, Sumo decisively suggested replacing the actor. The director hadn't expected Sumo to make such a request. After all, he was the one who personally brought Yang into this production. However, at this moment, he had strong doubts about Yang, which surprised everyone. People began to gossip, wondering what Yang had done wrong to make Sister Sue so displeased. Did she not want to continue in the industry? Seeing Sumo's actions, Yang Yu immediately realized the severity of the situation. She quickly approached Su Mo and sincerely apologized, begging for another chance. She knew her mistakes had caused great trouble for the crew, so she was willing to take responsibility and make amends. Su Mo was very dissatisfied with her attitude, saying she hadn't even memorized her lines and was wasting the entire crew's time. He directly asked for the director's opinion, but the director pretended to study the script, trying to avoid this sensitive topic. Yang Yu acknowledged her mistake. She bowed deeply to Su Mo, promising to memorize her lines and not NG again. Her attitude was very sincere and determined. The director now realized the seriousness of the situation. He persuaded Su Mo not to pursue the matter further, saying if they really had to replace the actor, he would have to pay additional fees. Su Mo, considering the director's face, decided to give Yang Yu one more chance. The director was surprised by Su Mo's decision. He had never seen this decisive and strict side of him before, but it was indeed impressive. He couldn't help but admire how Su Mo's style was quite appealing. Although Yang Yu was furious inside, she still bowed and thanked them. She knew that solving the problem was more important than venting emotions right now. The issue seemed resolved, and the crew continued filming the next scene. In this scene, Yang Yu was in a fountain, searching for her loved one's engagement ring. However, the ring was from another man. Su Mo wasn't satisfied with her performance. He directly pointed out that her smile was too bright, inconsistent with the melancholic and lonely emotions required for the scene. The director agreed with Su Mo's opinion. He acknowledged Su Mo's acting skills, recalling how he was nominated for the Golden Eagle Baichao Award shortly after his debut, proving his talent and ability. Yang Yu tried repeatedly during filming, sometimes missing the camera position, sometimes failing to grasp the character's emotions. Other actors envied Yang Yu for receiving Su Mo's personal guidance. After multiple attempts and efforts, Yang Yu finally achieved the state Su Mo had expected. She stepped out of the fountain, wrapping herself in a towel to avoid catching cold. Su Mo glanced at her, feeling that she might show her true colors soon, which excited him. However, after Su Mo left the set, a large hand suddenly covered his mouth from behind. Then Yang Yu appeared in front of him. Su Mo looked at him in terror, trying to struggle, but Yang Yu's strength seemed unusually great, making it impossible to break free. Su Mo looked at the man covering his mouth, thinking to himself if he was planning to kill and dispose of him. Fortunately, he had practiced grappling and boxing in the previous storyline, so dealing with him shouldn't be a problem. Just as he prepared for a fight, Yang Yu released him. The next second, the man bowed to him and thanked him for his guidance on set. The unexpected turn of events left Su Mo awkwardly at a loss. He directly told the man to drop the gentle persona, since there were no outsiders or cameras around, then reminded him that he had warned him not to bother him, or he'd ensure he became irrelevant. Suddenly, Su Mo thought of something and quickly created distance between them. Covering his face, he asked the man if he had hired someone again to capture compromising footage. Yang Yu responded seriously, continuing to apologize and expressing his intention to learn more about acting from him. Su Mo couldn't understand what was wrong with him and began to suspect if the man had a split personality. So he acted aloof, telling him that he was only being responsible for the work and would treat anyone else the same way, telling the man not to overthink and spend more time memorizing his lines. Then he warned Yang Yu that if he performed like today again, he should just quit acting. Then he left gracefully, ignoring the man's attempts to keep him. Back home, Su Mo collapsed on the sofa, reflecting on how unpredictable this male lead was. Then he snapped his fingers to call out the system. When Xiaobai appeared, he quickly asked him to check the male lead's current favorability rating. Xiaobai happily told him that the male lead's favorability had turned positive. Su Mo's eyes lit up at this news, and he grabbed the system panel to check the situation. Then he saw the favorability rating was at 0, and he immediately felt frustrated. He questioned Xiaobai about what kind of progress this was. Xiaobai explained that the hostility had been cleared, and gaining favorability was just a matter of time. Hearing this, Su Mo agreed. Then he recalled the man's apology that evening, which now seemed genuine. But he had been constantly criticizing and correcting his scenes. Could it be that his hidden trait was tough love? Understanding this, Su Mo declared that melodramatic TV shows couldn't defeat him. So he planned to train the male lead well before his audition, help him get the main role, and become famous. After planning this, he felt confident about his strategy. The next day, Su Mo arrived early at Hallyu Group. Just as he was about to knock on Sister Zhou's office door, he heard conversations inside. He heard Sister Zhou telling Yang Yu to go for an audition. Inside the office, Sister Zhou told the man that this audition was for a small production and asked him to consider carefully whether to take it. Yang Yu excitedly said he didn't need to think about it. He wanted to go. Sister Zhou reminded him to prepare well, saying if he passed, he could start filming in a month. At this point, Su Mo, who was eavesdropping, became unsettled. If the man took this bad drama role, it would conflict with the later audition schedule. How could he help then? So before Yang Yu could finish thanking Sister Zhou, he interrupted, stating that the man couldn't take this role. Both were surprised by Su Mo's appearance and turned to look at him. Su Mo crossed his arms and directly told Sister Zhou to decline this drama. Yang Yu angrily slammed the table, demanding to know why he was doing this. Sister Zhou noticed the tension between them, guessing they had conflicts on set. The man suddenly came to his senses, cleared his throat, covering up his previous outburst, then smiled and said he wasn't afraid of hard work and could handle it. Su Mo wanted to explain, but figured the male lead wouldn't buy it, so he chose to keep quiet. He sarcastically suggested they should give the man an award for taking on all the bad dramas. Seeing no progress with Su Mo, Yang Yu turned to Sister Zhou for help. Sister Zhou adjusted her glasses and agreed that reputation was important, suggesting they skip this one. She ignored the man's pleas and said the discussion was over. The man fell silent and left moments later. Meanwhile, Su Mo was pleased with himself, thinking he was secretly doing good and would be thanked after the audition. Outside the office, the angry man punched the wall, thinking he was crazy to believe Su Mo wanted to help him, since she was deliberately sabotaging him. He would show this woman he could survive without her. So he called Wang Xue, asking if she could visit the set tomorrow. The next day, Su Mo took his usual ride to the set. Thinking about how the male lead's favorability had dropped to -60 yesterday, he felt exhausted. Just then, he noticed a woman beside Yang Yu. His sharp intuition told him this woman might be a powerful supporting actress. Xiao Bai appeared and confirmed his guess, stating she was one of the biggest challenges in this storyline. Su Mo beckoned to him and grabbed his neck, demanding to know why he hadn't given him a heads up earlier. Just then, Su Mo heard the supporting actress's voice and quickly turned around, adjusting his smile to ask who was calling him. Then he saw the woman walking towards him. They stared at each other for a moment. Then the woman suddenly raised her hand. Sumo's face changed dramatically, thinking she was going to hit him, and immediately took a defensive stance. But the woman rushed forward and hugged him, saying they hadn't seen each other in a long time. Seeing Sumo's confused expression, the woman stepped back and asked if he didn't recognize her. Then she looked hurt, saying they were classmates for 4 years, and how could their relationship become so distant in such a short time? Sumo nervously pretended to remember while internally screaming for Xiao Bai to give him her background information. Then, her background appeared before his eyes. Looking carefully, Sumo found that among all the text, only the name Wang Xue was useful. He then took her arm and greeted her warmly. The woman told him she was here to visit the set and see him by the way. Sumo, thinking about how he was supposedly an old classmate, but only worth seeing by the way, asked who she was here to visit. The woman shyly tucked her hair, saying she met someone recently, but before she could explain who, the man in front waved at them, called out Xue, and walked over. Wang Xue called out Yang Yu in a sweet voice. Then the man looked at Su Mo beside her and gave a perfunctory nod hello. Su Mo, curious about when they met, asked about it. The man told him they met when he was an extra on her drama set, and they got to know each other gradually. Wang Xue happily agreed and said they were very compatible on screen. Su Mo felt very out of place at this moment. The woman continued praising Yang Yu, saying his dedication and hard work would surely lead to success. Not content with just praising, she sought his agreement. Sumo could only perfunctorily agree with everything she said. Internally, he sighed, thinking this girl must be an innocent little rabbit, and such flattery wouldn't work. He decided to demonstrate the correct approach to her. Then he told Yang Yu that merely shining wasn't enough. He should focus on acting well. He waved to the woman, saying they'd chat somewhere after filming. After he left, Wang Xue maintained her innocent facade, saying that's just how Sumo was, telling the man not to mind as she was still great. Yang Yu showed no reaction to this, just quietly saying they should head to the set. On set, Wang Xue took water from the staff and sat watching them act. Suemo was doing a scene with another actor. The actor opposite him loudly demanded to know why he stole her man, then slapped him. He fell crying, and the director immediately called cut. The opposite actor quickly helped him up, asking if he was hurt. The director thought this take was good and was about to film the next scene. But Wang Shui interrupted. Suemo looked at her confused. The woman innocently asked why such acting was acceptable. The director asked her what she meant. She explained that the actor hesitated while slapping, making the emotional expression inconsistent. The actor quickly apologized, saying she was afraid of hurting Su Jian. Wang Shui smiled and told her that during acting, there was no Su Jian, only the third party, so she should slap without hesitation. Suemo agreed and told the actor not to worry. Seeing they had worked it out, the director agreed to do another take. This time the actor didn't hesitate and slapped hard. Suemo fell to the ground with the momentum. But Wang Shui said the actor's emotions weren't as good as before, then asked if it was because she had interrupted. The actor became very nervous and kept apologizing. At this point, Suemo finally noticed something was wrong. The woman seemed to be directing others, but he was the one getting beaten up. With his experience in dealing with White Lotuses, this woman must be a classic White Lotus supporting character. Meanwhile, Wang Shui gently asked if they wanted to try again. Suemo directly asked the woman to demonstrate, saying practice was more important than theory, and they could learn from each other. The woman thought she would replace the opposing actor's position and gladly agreed. Two popular actresses performing together. Hearing this news, the set became excited with everyone discussing it. Wang Shui thought they could start, but Suemo shook his head. He put his hand on her shoulder, smiling and asking her to play his role. Seeing her surprised expression, he seriously explained that without knowing the script well, it would be hard to demonstrate effectively, so she just needed to stand there looking wrong. Then he flexed his wrist and told the person opposite that he was about to start, not giving the woman time to refuse. Suemo quickly got into character, pointed at her while saying the lines, then raised his hand to slap. Seeing the hand about to hit her, Wang Shui quickly took a defensive stance. Just when she thought she was about to be hit, the hand stopped and gently brushed past her cheek. After demonstrating, Sumo turned to the previous actor with a smile, explaining that emotions and actions should work together. Before he could finish sharing his experience, his hand was grabbed. Yang Yu, dressed in shabby clothes, pulled his hand and loudly demanded to know what he was doing. Suemo looked at him confused. Then he realized this person with messy hair was Yang Yu. For a moment, he thought it was some anti-fan trying to teach him a lesson. Wang Shui quickly went forward to hold the man back, telling him Suemo was just demonstrating. But the man wouldn't listen at all, angrily pointing at Suemo, saying he saw him raise his hand. The woman, seeing him standing up for her, didn't explain anything. Suemo was speechless, thinking if he had been holding a prop knife, he'd probably be in jail by now. Seeing no explanation, Yang Yu continued questioning why so many people specifically chose Wang Shui, seriously suspecting she had ulterior motives. Suemo immediately retorted, telling him his name wasn't Wei, but Su Zhuai-Tian. This scene was written in the schedule, so of course he would demonstrate it. He saw the man wanted to say more, but the speechless man said he hadn't acted with Shui for a long time. He wanted to take this chance to learn from each other. If not practicing like this, should they fight with thin air instead? Seeing the man finally quiet, Suemo stepped forward to criticize him. He reminded the man to put aside his personal emotions, and if he didn't understand what getting into character meant, he should go back and consult his acting teacher. At this point, Wang Shui began her White Lotus performance. She gently explained that the man was just emotional because he was tired, asking Suemo not to be angry. She didn't want to see them argue because of her, as it would make her feel guilty. Then she transformed into a kind white flower, saying it was just a small misunderstanding and she'd treat them both to barbecue after filming. Looking at the woman spouting classic White Lotus phrases, Suemo couldn't help but marvel at their award-worthy acting skills. Coincidentally, the staff called her for filming, so she used this as an excuse to decline the evening gathering and turned to leave. Wang Shui watched her leave and pretended to worry, asking Yang Yu if Suemo was angry. The man didn't care about this question and asked if her face still hurt. She quickly turned away, saying it didn't hurt. The man hurriedly said he'd go remove his makeup first and bring her an ice pack for her face later. After she left, the woman revealed a calculating expression. Meanwhile, Suemo returned home exhausted, suddenly faced with a zoomed-in wailing face. He couldn't react for a moment. Xiaobai scared him so much he almost left this beautiful world. Then Xiaobai came close to his face, chokingly begging him to stop, and pulled up the system panel in front of his eyes. The panel clearly showed a favorability of -80. Sumo wasn't surprised by this result. He said they'd definitely win after the audition invitation in a month. Seeing he still couldn't grasp the situation, Xiaobai showed him the Weibo trending topics. Sumo's expression changed dramatically when he saw the trending topic about Yang Yu possibly terminating his contract with Hao Yu. Sumo was thunderstruck by the Weibo trends. If Yang Yu terminated his contract, how could she advance the plot? Xiaobai continued fanning nearby, warning that if he didn't rein in his powers, his body hair might turn into chicken feathers. Just imagining becoming a chicken, Sumo strongly resisted. Xiaobai comforted him, saying he could increase favorability and unlock key plot points first. Thinking carefully, he realized he shouldn't panic, so he began analyzing the current situation. He discovered Yang Yu was just caught between her and Wang Xue, merely gaining some attention. Xiaobai thought she had figured it out and encouraged her to help clarify things for the male lead to increase favorability. But he ignored Xiaobai's honesty and wisely stated they should make the situation bigger. The next second, he became Zhuge Mo and started outlining his plan. Xiaobai was already numb and called headquarters to reserve a chicken quota. Meanwhile, Sumo was still fantasizing about maintaining Yang Yu's popularity before the audition, thinking the progress bar would fill up quickly after completing the mission. Xiaobai asked if he was confident he could do all this before reaching -100 favorability. He chuckled and said of course not. Hearing this, Xiaobai became depressed, believing he would definitely become a chicken. Sumo was full of confidence and began his plan by quickly taking out his phone to call Sister Zhou, arranging something regarding Yang Yu. The next day, just as he opened his car door, as expected, he was surrounded by reporters. Camera flashes crossed in the crowd as everyone wanted to interview him. Looking at the scene before him, Sumo decided to use their complex three-way relationship to boost the male lead's popularity. So he patiently calmed the reporters present, saying he would answer all questions. Then the reporters swarmed in, speaking all at once. Someone asked if he and Wang Xue didn't get along. He immediately clarified, saying they just hadn't had the opportunity to work together. 20 minutes later, the reporters looked exhausted. Sumo had already answered over 1,000 questions. At this moment, he asked if there were any more questions. Inside, he was frantically complaining why no one asked about Yang Yu. The reporters present were also a bit lost, as they'd never encountered someone who answered questions so readily. At this moment, someone in the crowd raised their hand, finally asking about his relationship with Yang Yu. Sumo almost burst into tears, thinking it wasn't all for nothing. So he pretended to be shy and hesitant, but before he could finish his act, the crowd began to stir. He became angry. He had waited so long for this question, but the reporters were getting distracted. The next second, he saw Wang Xue and Yang Yu walking over. The reporters were all drawn to the approaching pair, recognizing who they were. Sumo immediately sensed trouble. Then the reporters rushed toward Yang Yu, bombarding them with questions. Wang Xue said she saw the news and came today to explain and clarify. Sumo scoffed in displeasure, thinking she probably didn't want to clarify, but rather wanted to make things bigger. The next second, the woman grabbed his hand, saying apologetically that she came to explain. The reporters felt this was an epic encounter and started taking photos frantically. Sumo thought the situation might work even better, so he teased Yang Yu, asking if he also came to explain. The man smiled coldly, saying he didn't understand the rumors and also hoped to clarify things soon. Hearing their dialogue, reporters quickly turned their microphones to the man, asking about the trending topic incident. Sumo looked at the reporters helplessly. No one had asked her earlier, but now someone immediately had a scoop. Wang Xue stepped forward, seriously stating that Yang Yu worked hard without relying on connections. She told reporters they were all good friends with no complicated relationships, then turned to Sumo seeking agreement. But Sumo didn't say a word, standing there silently. His attitude made the reporters suspicious. They quickly turned their microphones back to him, asking if there was more to the story. He simply stated that he had explained what needed to be explained and to wait for the official statement for the rest. The reporters wanted to ask more, but were blocked by bodyguards. At this moment, Sumo was delighted. With this move, everyone from young to old would remember Yang Yu. Meanwhile, Wang Xue pretended to look incredulous. Yang Yu beside her had a gloomy expression. The next day in the office, Sister Zhou looked at the newspaper her with a profound expression. Then she stood up excitedly. Suemo looked over at the sound. Sister Zhou immediately said her idea was brilliant, and now the topic about the three of them was definitely trending. She finally understood why Suemo told her not to interfere on the phone. Hearing this, Suemo waved it off, saying she had to go, asking her to keep an eye on things and avoid mistakes. Then she secretly rejoiced in her success, planning to clear the man's name once the topic had been sufficiently discussed. Once he had fans, plus the upcoming production, he would soon rise up. At this moment, commotion outside caught his attention through the glass. He saw a group of people ignoring security guards, hurling insults at Yang Yu. They even threw paint at him. Seeing this scene, Sumo's face changed dramatically. He couldn't understand how a simple gossip story turned into this. Watching the man walk and looking disheveled, he quickly called out to stop him. Yang Yu wiped his bloodied mouth with his red hand, asking if he was satisfied now. Suemo hurriedly explained that this wasn't what he wanted, but the man had already left. The surrounding noise was chaotic, with harsh comments reaching his ears, each one more cruel than the last. He couldn't help but worry. In the makeup room, Suemo was getting made up. From the corner of her eye, she noticed the man nearby, staring at her constantly. The makeup artist noticed this and asked if she was worried about Yang Yu. Suemo was actually more worried about her own life, so she asked why the man was here. The makeup artist told her Yang Yu was surrounded by anti-fans and reporters, with nowhere else to go but here. Hearing this, she felt she might be in trouble. The makeup artist added that hiding here wouldn't help Yang Yu. No one in the crew was being nice to him. He was just unwelcome in a different place. Suemo was confused, so the makeup artist explained why. It turned out the entire crew were Sumo's fans. The makeup artist added that the whole thing was strange, as gossip stories don't usually escalate like this. Suemo agreed something was off. The whole thing seemed like someone was deliberately stirring things up. Just then, more commotion came from outside. He still didn't know what was happening. The next second, a group of people were about to break past security, pushing and shouting. Some were throwing things into the room, making Suemo dodge quickly in fear. The makeup artist hurriedly called for security. The scene was like a cafeteria at lunchtime. Suemo couldn't take it anymore, wondering what she had done. Looking at the cloth she just pulled down, she decided to use it. Meanwhile, Yang Yu was helpless, trying to cover his face with his clothes. Insults were coming from all directions. Then a cloth fell on his head. Suemo stepped in front of him, smiling and trying to get friendly with the crowd, then made hand signals behind her back. The assistant understood and led the man away. Though Suemo had done a good deed, she wasn't hoping for positive feedback anymore, just hoping to be treated kindly when her time came. After escaping that situation, Yang Yu could finally catch his breath. Just then his phone rang in his pocket. On the other end, Wang Shuwei pretended to be anxiously concerned about him. But the man caught a flaw in her words. It had only been 5 minutes since the incident, yet she already knew about it. Yang Yu smirked, asking if she was really concerned or just checking on her results. As the woman tried to explain, Yang Yu continued about being surrounded by anti-fans earlier, being forced to take his car, and a 3-person interview. Finally, he questioned whether this was coincidence or if she had planned it all along. Hearing this, Wang Shui let out a light laugh, knowing she'd been found out. Then she smiled and said she was just trying to help him, with no ill intentions. Yang Yu sneered, clearly not agreeing. Wang Shui seemed indifferent, telling him it wasn't convenient to talk over the phone and suggested meeting somewhere to discuss details. Meanwhile, Suemo collapsed exhaustedly in her chair. The mob had finally left. She felt life was tough, figuring this news would explode across the galaxy. Suddenly, a conversation between staff nearby caught her attention. Someone's work ID had been dropped, and the person who found it was planning to ask around. This made Suemo suspicious. Why would fans have crew members' work IDs? So she tapped Xiao Li's shoulder, pretending not to know, and asked what he was holding. Xiao Li told her they were looking for the owner of some lost work IDs. Moreover, these 3 were temporary IDs without names, meant to be returned after work. Hearing this, Suemo smiled broadly, saying she might know whose they were. So Xiao Li handed her the IDs. Holding them, she had her suspicions. Someone probably used these to sneak in and cause trouble. Thinking back to the incident, she realized that despite it being about 2 timing, only fans from one side showed up. If Yang Yu thought today's troublemakers were all his fans, he would end up being the fool. Feeling worried, she quickly asked Xiao Li if Annie Shui had visited recently. Xiao Li said no, but her assistant had brought lots of snacks. Suemo asked how that woman's assistant could enter the set. Xiao Li explained that a few days ago, the assistant got several work IDs from the director for easy access, about 5 or 6 of them. Her eyes lit up hearing this, starting to understand. In the coffee shop, Yang Yu entered in disguise. Wang Shui stirred her coffee, teasing that he came quite quickly, then asked if he wasn't chased on his way. The man looked at her through gritted teeth, saying thanks to her. He was chased for 2 blocks and had to change cars 3 times. When the waiter came to take his order, Yang Yu instinctively turned and asked for water, then asked the woman what she really wanted. The woman put down her coffee. Resting her chin on her hands, she smiled and told him she had a way to save him. Hearing this, he slammed the table and demanded answers. The woman stated that his current situation was his own doing. Wang Shui deflected blame, saying it wasn't her, but Su Mo's ambiguous attitude to the media that caused this. She continued, saying it was all because of that woman, and her solution could not only clear his name, but also ruin that woman's reputation. Yang Yu was very tempted by this proposal. He directly asked the woman what he needed to do. Wang Shui told him to say in front of reporters on the new drama's promotion day that Su Mo was clingy and deliberately causing him trouble. Yang Yu responded that she had calculated well. No matter what happened, she would be the one who benefited. The woman calmly told him that if he didn't clear his name soon, his new drama might not have a chance. Yang Yu changed the subject, saying she did all this just to get revenge because she lost the role to Su Mo before. The woman immediately protested loudly, insisting that role should have been hers. Then she spoke heatedly with provocative undertones, claiming Su Mo had terrible character and deserved to be exposed. The man fell in a deep thought hearing this. Recalling moments from their past interactions, he began to have doubts. Then he asked if Su Mo really hit her on set, if she actually got hit. Wang Shui answered nervously, then continued, saying if he exposed Su Mo, she would help him get the Qiandao contract. Hearing this, Yang Yu agreed. Seeing the matter settled, the woman got up to leave. After she left, the man took out his phone that was still recording and stopped and saved the audio. Meanwhile, Su Mo was waiting for the elevator, lamenting the direction of the plot. It was frustrating. Everything had been well arranged until Annie Wang Shui came to mess things up. After entering the elevator, while complaining about the male lead being an idiot, she repeatedly jabbed the elevator buttons to vent. The next moment, the male lead's voice came through. She awkwardly explained that the buttons weren't working, so she pressed them multiple times. Then silence filled the elevator. Su Mo decided to use this moment to gain some favor points. Just as she started to express concern, Yang Yu thanked her. She turned her head away embarrassedly, saying she was just upholding justice. Hearing this, the man said he needed to ask something face to face. Before he could ask, the elevator suddenly shook violently. After the elevator quieted down, Su Mo asked what happened. The man wasn't sure either, so he pressed the nearest floor button, hoping the elevator would stop. Su Mo suddenly became nervous, wondering if the plot had some built-in accident function. Just then, the elevator doors opened, and she felt relieved. But as she stepped out, the elevator suddenly started descending. She lost her balance and was about to fall. Yang Yu grabbed her quickly. Half embracing her, he reminded her to be careful. She nodded in agreement, but became dazed when she looked up. Staring at the man before her, he asked if she was really okay. Unable to distinguish who was before her, she murmured Qin Jinsheng. The elevator stopped, and Yang Yu asked who she was calling. Su Mo finally came to her senses and said she was calling her aunt. Then she thanked the man for what just happened. He said it was repayment for helping him escape that day. Then he told her to stand steady while he called the control center for help. Su Mo stood there lost in thought, not understanding why she mistook Yang Yu for the black-hearted CEO. They were completely different, she thought, watching the man methodically explaining the situation to the control center. She felt uncertain again. Soon after, maintenance staff rescued them from the elevator. As soon as they got out, Manager Zhou rushed over immediately to check if she was injured. Then Yang Yu also climbed out of the elevator. Seeing him, Zhou immediately asked about his condition. The man covered his hand, smiling and saying he was fine, telling her not to worry. But Su Mo felt something was wrong. Seeing him covering his hand, she went back. Squatting down to examine his hand, she sighed about how he had hurt his hand again. Even she found it strange why she said again. The man suddenly struggled, saying he didn't need her help. She firmly slapped a band-aid onto his wound, saying she was only helping because he had saved her. Yang Yu looked at the band-aid and bluntly said it was ugly. Hearing this, Su Mo felt like she'd heard it before from a certain CEO. so she carefully tested him, saying if he found it ugly, he could tear it off. The next second, the man mercilessly tore off the Band-Aid. She became furious inside, not understanding what she had been expecting. They had completely different personalities. Seeing today's situation, Zhou decided to give him time off, saying her assistant would rearrange his schedule. Then called Yang Yu to the office. The man acknowledged and turned around. He put the torn-off Band-Aid back on his palm's wound. In the office, Zhou pushed some documents about Bailey Changhuan in front of him, telling him Qiandao invited him for an audition. Hearing it was from Qiandao, Yang Yu immediately expressed his willingness and thanked Zhou for the opportunity. Zhou smiled and said he should thank the person who had been running around creating buzz and topics for him. The man immediately thought of Wang Xue, assuming it was her help. Zhou didn't say more, just told him to prepare well for the audition, watching him leave. She secretly hoped the man wouldn't disappoint Su Mo's expectations. Meanwhile, Yang Yu completely misunderstood Zhou's meaning. Remembering his promise to Wang Xue, his expression grew serious. He kept pulling at the Band-Aid, struggling with whether he should do it. Just then, the Band-Aid fell off his wound. As he reached to catch it, he stopped. Then he scratched his head hard. Finally, he left without picking up the Band-Aid. A few days later, at the press conference venue, the yellow-haired guy was discussing the procedure with Yang's team. Seeing Wang Xue arrive, he quickly greeted her, then excused himself to supervise elsewhere. The woman smiled at Yang Yu, asking if he had forgotten his promise to her. The man said he remembered, then impatiently turned away. Hearing her tell him to perform well and not disappoint, his expression grew darker. Just then, he heard someone calling him, which surprised him. Zhou didn't waste words, directly asking him to come with her. Meanwhile, at Su Mo's home, she was lying lifelessly on the sofa, asking Xiao Bai to check the strategy status. Xiao Bai showed the progress bar, indicating she was minus 10 points away from dying on the spot. She weakly said thanks after hearing this. Xiao Bai quickly tried to encourage her not to give up, but every word just hurt more. Suddenly, Su Mo sat up again, just when Xiao Bai thought she had an idea. She peacefully lay back down, saying she just wanted to find a comfortable position to wait for death. In her mind, she was already imagining her difficult life as a chicken, and secretly vowed that even as a chicken, she'd be a long-lived one. The progress bar dropped to minus 98. They both sat nervously huddled together, watching failure approach. Su Mo nervously covered her eyes, asking Xiao Bai if she was returning to heaven, saying she was ready. Then she heard Xiao Bai say she seemed to have cleared the level. She pushed Xiao Bai aside and looked at the purity panel. The panel showed current favorability 60. Just a minute ago, Yang Yu and Zhou had gone to a corner. She outwardly asked what was wrong, inwardly wondering if Wang Xue's matter had been exposed. The next second, Zhou said her matter was approved. She couldn't believe it, asked again, and got confirmation. She kept thanking Zhou, but Zhou said she should thank Su Mo instead. Seeing the man's confused expression, Zhou recalled the situation. A few days ago, Su Mo had told Zhou her plan. She wanted to help clear Yang Yu's name after the entertainment incident, but someone interfered and delayed it, so she planned to clear it during the star system promotion. Zhou understood then why she helped promote the man's show. She had planned to support him all along. Su Mo didn't deny it, believing Yang Yu had talent and worked hard, so helping wasn't unreasonable. After hearing Zhou's recollection, Yang Yu finally realized who had been helping him. Just then, the yellow-haired guy called Zhou for help. She quickly patted the man's shoulder, telling him not to waste Su Mo's efforts. After she left, he fell into deep thought, not understanding why she would help him. Meanwhile, Su Mo, realizing she wouldn't die, was celebrating her hard-won happiness. Xiao Bai teased her, saying who was it just now crying their eyes out. She hugged Xiao Bai happily, celebrating that she could stay in this troublesome mission. Xiao Bai warned her not to get carried away, reminding that favorability could decrease. But she said her efforts weren't wasted, and now it was someone else's turn to cry. At this time, topics about the three of them trended on Weibo. Those who knew the truth leaked information, and Wang Xue's reputation instantly reversed. She was now grinding her teeth while looking at the comments on her phone. Her manager anxiously asked if she knew who leaked it. She threw her phone and said she didn't know. The manager could only pace anxiously. After all, the interview was coming up soon. Wang Xue suddenly realized and angrily slammed the table, saying it must have been Su Mo's doing. The video was taken by staff members. If that woman didn't benefit, it wouldn't be released now. While she was fuming, her manager reminded her that Yang Yu had arrived. She immediately put on a smile, asked where he went. He said the bathroom, then asked what happened. She tentatively asked if he had seen the trending topics. Yang Yu pretended to be confused and said he hadn't. Wang Shui relaxed and told him to prepare for the show while plotting in her mind. At the press conference, after the new drama promotion ended, they began the Q&A session. Reporters started asking questions about the recent trending topics. Wang Shui put on an innocent expression, saying she didn't know what was happening. She deliberately hinted that Yang Yu's harassment by anti-fans had hidden details, which he had acknowledged. Then Yang Yu told reporters that things weren't as described online. He took out his phone from his pocket, wanting to play something for the reporters, saying everyone would know the truth after hearing it. Wang Shui panicked seeing him go off script, demanding to know what he was doing. The man smirked and told her to listen carefully, then press play. Hearing her own voice, she panicked and quickly denied it. The reporters below were confused, not understanding this development. Wang Shui no longer cared about appearances and reached to grab the phone. The man quickly dodged sideways. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. As her malicious words continued playing from the phone, her expression grew increasingly ugly. After the recording ended, Yang Yu coldly observed, saying he could now properly answer questions. The reporters rushed to the front. Microphones pointed at him, asking questions about the recording. The manager stepped forward to shield Wang Shui, making excuses to take her away. But the reporters persisted in asking questions. Seeing the situation, Zhou told Yang Yu to return backstage and not speak carelessly. The host reluctantly came out to maintain order, ending the chaotic interview. Both managers returned to the restroom and started making calls to handle the aftermath. Yang Yu's phone rang just then. As he answered, the enraged woman knocked it away. The phone screen shattered instantly. She angrily demanded to know if he was going to find someone else to smear her. The manager hurried to calm her emotions. Zhou stood in front of Yang Yu, stating disapprovingly that they were just telling the truth, not smearing anyone. Both sides began arguing again, seeming ready to fight. Yang Yu walked forward and picked up his damaged phone. With a mocking expression, he emphasized this wasn't smearing. He just wanted her to experience what it felt like to be super popular. Wang Shui was so angry, she went to slap him. The phone was knocked away again, breaking even more thoroughly. Meanwhile, Su Mo and companion were sneaking around outside. He didn't understand why they needed to unlock a new character. Little White explained that each new character in the copy needs a special event to unlock. Su Mo recalled the last special event and realized it was when she was attacked. She immediately turned to escape, but was grabbed by Little White. Hearing people arguing about her inside, she couldn't help but peek. She found Wang Shui slandering her again, claiming she only pretended to help Yang Yu. But the man didn't care about these words, saying using her as a scapegoat was fine. The woman, enraged, raised her hand to strike again. This time Yang Yu caught her hand, telling her he would release the recording tomorrow. After speaking, he casually pulled. Wang Shui lost balance and fell. Su Mo knew she couldn't let anything happen at this crucial moment, so she rushed out to catch the falling woman. When Wang Shui saw who it was, her anger surged. She immediately pushed Su Mo away, telling her not to touch her. Su Mo hadn't reacted when she hit a nearby table, getting cut by broken glass. Zhou and Yang Yu saw this and called out worriedly. They rushed forward to help Su Mo up, asking if she was okay. Yang Yu anxiously asked why she jumped in. She said Wang Shui's injury would affect her, but internally complained that special events were never good. Yang Yu was stunned for a moment hearing her words. Meanwhile, the favorability progress bar fluctuated. Seeing the situation, Wang Shui quickly defended herself, saying she didn't mean to push her. But the man didn't want to hear her excuses and picked up Su Mo to go to the hospital. She tried to say something more. The next second, Yang Yu pushed past her, carrying Su Mo out. In the hospital, Su Mo lay lifeless on the bed. A nurse came in to change her bandages, warning it might hurt after the medicine wears off and to be careful during future filming. She immediately responded with a bright smile and expressed thanks. The fangirl nurse was instantly captivated by her smile, stammering that she'd return later to change the bandages. Once the door closed, Su Mo revealed her true state, her face contorted in pain from the wounds. She lamented about the weird setting of unlocking plot points, but was pleased that the male lead's favorability seemed to have changed. Little White appeared, saying the male lead's favorability was already at 80. She found this surprising but melodramatic, thinking the Mary Sue female lead was indeed lucky. Just then, Zhou's voice came from outside. She was confronting Yang Yu about Wang Shui and Lu Yin's matter. The man told her the truth, explaining that woman approached him thinking he and Su Mo didn't get along. Hearing this, Zhou finally understood why she acted so strangely today, probably thinking Su Mo was targeting her before. Then she imagined if she hadn't told her the truth, Su Mo might have been slandered. Angrily grabbing his collar, she wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Su Mo. Both turned to look at the person at the hospital room door. Zhou reminded him not to move around after surgery. Yang Yu looked at the person before him, but didn't know what to say. Then Su Mo spoke, saying dejectedly that this was all his fault. It was his one-sided feelings. Hearing this, the man felt guilty and quickly apologized. Su Mo, with tears in his eyes, told him he wouldn't remove his role, but didn't want any more interaction with him. As he turned around, he accidentally hit the door, screaming in pain, almost breaking character. Yang Yu wanted to check on him, but Zhou stopped him. He knew he had no right and could only stand stunned outside the room. Inside the room, Su Mo secretly laughed, grateful for the 8 o'clock drama cliché lines that made his performance perfect, then happily started dancing around. But joy turned to pain as he accidentally hit his injured hand again. The next day, when he just woke up, in his hazy state, he seemed to see a familiar face. He mumbled some sweet words, telling him to stop pleading for his sister, saying he'd definitely attend his sister's 80th birthday. Before finishing his words, Su Mo suddenly became clear-headed, but before he could gather his thoughts, the man handed him a bouquet and greeted him. He looked at the person before him, carefully examining his face and clothes, unable to tell if this was the same person. So he quickly threw a punch at the man's stomach, then seriously asked if it hurt. In the hospital room, Sumo's punch to the man's stomach seemed quite heavy. Seeing the Qin Huan-like person's face twisted in pain, he froze, realizing it wasn't a dream. To break the awkward tension, he enthusiastically greeted the young man, asking if they'd met before. The man held his stomach, slowly straightened up, his eyes gleaming playfully. He slowly approached Su Mo, lifted his chin, and with an ambiguous smile, asked if this was how he usually flirted with people. As the intimate atmosphere continued to heat up, Zhou pushed open the door and saw the subtle atmosphere, making Su Mo feel like he couldn't explain himself, even if he jumped into the Yellow River. During their conversation, he learned the man was by Li Chong Huan's investor and one of the male leads, Chen Xingyu. As they were discussing Wang Xue's trending confession about hurting Su Mo, Zhou burst in again, excitedly discussing the new drama collaboration with CEO Chun with Su Mo. At this moment, Yang Yu ran into the room, breathlessly carrying some things, making Zhou confused. As Yang Yu was about to explain, Chen Xingyu stepped forward to greet her. However, just as their hands were about to touch, Chen Xingyu chuckled. He deliberately knocked over the thermos in his arms, splashing soup on his pants. Hearing the other's distorted version of events, Yang Yu angrily looked at the arrogant Chen Xingyu, while Su Mo spoke up to break the tension between them. Before Yang Yu could tell the truth, CEO Chen took out the contract for by Li Chonghuan and explained that she had always been the female lead, sincerely expressing his desire for a chance to work together. Although Su Mo appeared calm on the surface, inside he was screaming. He felt this CEO, Chun, was even more charming than the previous villain brother. Before he could respond, Yang Yu quickly stepped in front of him, trying to find reasons to refuse this collaboration. However, to Yang Yu's surprise, Su Mo gladly accepted the collaboration with CEO Chun. Yang Yu tried to interrupt the two, who were intensely discussing the script, but his intervention didn't change the direction of the conversation. He gave up helplessly. Even when asked about signing the contract, he had no reaction, as if he was an outsider. Su Mo observed the awkward atmosphere. Though unclear about Yang Yu's behavior, she decided to help ease the tension. However, Zhou stepped forward, gently holding both their hands, sincerely conveying wishes for a pleasant collaboration. After the producer left, Su Mo felt exhausted. When he turned to see Yang Yu silently holding the thermos, doubts arose in his mind. If Qin Huan could appear with a new identity, could Qin Jinsheng also possibly? However, he immediately cut off this unrealistic thought. Looking at the gentle and caring man before him, Su Mo made a decision. He wanted this man to experience the complexity and dangers of human nature. So he coldly announced they would be strangers from now on. As Yang Yu prepared to leave the room, hearing these words, he froze in place. Without waiting for his response, Su Mo quickly turned away, pretending to be heartbroken, as if there had never been any emotional connection between them. A week later, the new drama began filming. The atmosphere on set was lively. When producer Chen walked towards Su Mo with an extended hand, Yang Yu rushed forward first, firmly grasping CEO Chen's hand in greeting. Su Mo watched their friendly interaction and turned away reassured. After he left, the situation took a dramatic turn. The handshake between CEO Chen and Yang Yu became intense, neither willing to show weakness. Suddenly, Chen forcefully pulled his hand back, seeming somewhat disgusted. Meanwhile, Suemo was studying the script, confused about the scene where the male lead pushes the female lead against the wall. While discussing the logic of this scene with the screenwriter, the writer excitedly explained it was the famous wall slam scene, followed by a forceful kiss. Suemo didn't immediately understand and was still pondering its meaning. Suddenly realizing, she sat in her chair terrified, understanding it was a kissing scene. Suemo tried to ease her panic with music. CEO Chen sat nearby listening to her awkward singing while discussing upcoming scenes. Suddenly, he stood up, his eyes flashing with determination, feeling he needed to do something before filming. Then he quickly turned and left. With the director's cue, the kissing scene officially began. Both quickly got into character. However, Yang Yu couldn't hide his dissatisfaction and jealousy. He clenched his fists tightly, controlling his impulses to avoid disrupting the scene. Outside the set, Suemo skillfully peeled off the tape from his mouth with a playful expression. He twirled the tape roll in his hand, showing off his cleverness to others. The director nodded with satisfaction, stepping forward to applaud their perfect coordination. However, Yang Yu watched the scene before him with a heart full of resentment. Just as the director turned to him, preparing to explain the emotional requirements for the next scene, he was shocked to see Yang Yu's expression of quickly getting into character. This made him full of expectations for Yang Yu's performance. He told Yang Yu to maintain this state, then turned to notify everyone to prepare for the next scene. However, after the director left, Yang Yu's expression immediately changed. He tried to call out Suemo, but she ignored him. She decisively turned away to change for the next scene. Yang Yu felt a surge of loss. He realized there seemed to be an insurmountable distance between him and Suemo. In the following scene, when Yang Yu questioned why she abandoned him back then, Suemo froze for a moment before realizing this was just acting. She suddenly turned back to look at Yang Yu. When she looked at the man before her again, as he painfully questioned why she abandoned him, she felt like she was hallucinating, as if seeing Qin Jingsheng asking why she left. After the shock, Suemo rushed forward without hesitation, tightly grabbing Yang Yu's clothes, emotionally explaining the reasons for leaving. His voice echoed through the theater. The entire set fell silent. Then they realized they were still filming. After realizing they were still filming, Suemo immediately turned to explain to everyone and apologize for her behavior. Just as she sighed in relief, Yang Yu beside her curiously asked who she had mistaken him for, watching her lower her head in thought. Suemo secretly swallowed, just about to explain, but heard his ridiculous self-answer. Just as she was about to turn away, Yang Yu suddenly grabbed her wrist. Slowly bending down, he lifted her chin, asking if the next kissing scene could be shot from an angle. Suemo froze, then swatted his hand away, explaining it was just acting. Just then, the director asked for another take. She didn't explain further. Responding to the director, she turned and ran away. After filming, on her way back, Suemo faintly heard Yang Yu's voice. She quietly hid behind the wall, peeking to see him arguing with So-chun. Her eyes sparkled, as if smelling gossip. She was excited inside. At this moment, Xiaobai sensed her dangerous thoughts and tried to warn her. Suddenly, CEO Chen changed his tone, questioning Yang Yu's impure motives in approaching him, accusing him of wanting to benefit while despising him. Suemo quietly hid in the corner, hearing Yang Yu admit to what the other said. After a moment of silence, she turned away heartbroken, missing his explanation that followed. Yang Yu grabbed the other's collar, arguing that was in the past. Now he only wanted to make amends, and warned him he wouldn't let anyone with ill intentions get close to her. So, Chen laughed mockingly, removed his hand, telling him to go ahead and try, then turned and left. The seaside staff noticed Sumo's dark circles. They came forward to show concern. She vaguely responded, thinking about the wire stunts making her too excited to sleep. Sensing her true emotions, Xiao Bai immediately comforted her. and explained about hiding the target character, asking if he would choose to switch targets. Though recalling Yang Yu's earlier admission, he still hesitated. Seeing his indecision, Xiaobai decided to help him make the choice. Before he could say anything, filming began again. After completing the wire stunt scene at the seaside, while waiting to be pulled ashore by the staff, he suddenly saw Xiaobai take out a huge pair of scissors. To his shock, cut the rope, causing him to fall off the cliff. The two people on shore panicked, watching Suemo fall into the cliff, shouting his name loudly. On the beach at dusk, Suemo slowly opened his eyes. His gaze held confusion, then suddenly realized Yang Yu was unconscious beside him. On the beach, Suemo anxiously patted Yang Yu's face, calling his name with a trembling voice. At this moment, Xiaobai appeared in his vision with a smile, advising that if he kept patting, they could go to heaven together. Suemo glared at the culprit who caused all this, his anger burning fiercely. He berated them thoroughly, but it still couldn't ease his hatred. He remembered the moment they fell into the sea, how he bravely dragged Yang Yu towards the shore. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, wondering why the plot development here was different from the novel. Xiaobai changed the subject, reminding him that the male lead's condition was becoming more dangerous. Suemo looked at the pale, unconscious Yang Yu. His heart tightened, suspecting oxygen deprivation, preparing to perform artificial respiration. He pinched his nose, but suddenly stopped, as if hitting pause. Hearing Xiaobai warn that the situation was getting worse, Suemo took a deep breath, slowly leaned down, and began performing artificial respiration. After much effort, Yang Yu finally coughed out the dirty water. Weakly opened his eyes, seeing Suemo's figure through the haze. The next moment he sat up and held him tightly in his arms. Suemo felt his trembling body, raised his arms to hug back, gently patting his back, assuring him he was fine. At this moment, Yang Yu came to his senses, nervously looking at Suemo, asking if he was hurt. Suemo shook his head, saying he was fine, curious why he jumped in when he couldn't swim. Yang Yu scratched his head embarrassedly, explaining he could swim but got a leg cramp from nervousness, causing this situation. Looking at the man before him, Suemo didn't know how to respond, feeling mixed emotions. He turned around, loudly thanking him while running away quickly. Away. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupted his unfinished words. He turned to see Yang Yu unconscious again. He nervously held him up to check his condition, suddenly noticing something strange on his hands. When he pulled back his hand, it was covered in blood before his eyes. Collapse meant game over. Even Xiaobai had never seen a failed conquest due to the male lead's HP reaching 0. Suemo shook Yang Yu vigorously, begging him to hang on, not to die here. However, at this moment, the tide began to rise at the seaside. They had to hide in a cave to avoid being eaten by fish tonight. Suemo forcefully carried Yang Yu on his back. He believed they wouldn't die so easily. He struggled to move forward with Yang Yu, but Xiaobai just stood by watching. Suemo immediately gave him a swift kick, teaching him to be a helpful child. In the cave, Suemo started a fire and carefully moved Yang Yu to sit aside. Then he suddenly realized that his wounds seemed to be from before. Yang Yu suddenly called out her name in his sleep, making Suemo both embarrassed and helpless. However, the man's condition wasn't good. His face was flushed, and he was breathing heavily. Suemo felt his forehead and found it burning hot. While Xiaobai was analyzing that the male lead might not make it, Suemo suddenly stripped off his jacket. He even tried to remove his pants. Xiaobai was shocked, saying the male lead wasn't dead yet. Actually, Suemo removed his clothes to keep the male lead warm. Then he used torn strips of cloth to treat his wounds. Suddenly, the male lead fell into his arms, holding him tightly, repeatedly emphasizing he wouldn't let go. Suemo was touched. Although he was just a system-set NPC, his injuries were real, and his grabbing onto him without hesitation was real too. He gently adjusted Yang Yu's clothes, deeply moved. Just then, he suddenly discovered Xiaobai's mission record book, so he began reading the records page by page. Since Mission 3 had an immortal cultivation setting, imagining the ethereal beautiful man, Suemo became instantly enthralled. Then he scrolled to Mission 1's record. However, What he saw shocked him. Qin Jinsheng from Mission 1 and Yang Yu were the same person. Suemo suddenly realized that those weren't illusions. He really was the ruthless CEO from the previous mission. So heaven was indeed too poor to afford different NPCs, just recycling them with different minds. At this moment, Xiao Bai in the corner suddenly became nervous. Looking back suspiciously, Suemo quickly put the record book back to avoid suspicion. He angrily let Yang Yu lie flat on his legs to rest. However, seeing the man's haggard appearance made his heart ache. Looks like he'd need to make him some pork knuckle soup again. Suddenly, Chen Xingyu burst into the cave, making Suemo, who had just wanted to get handsy with the male lead, extremely embarrassed. Noticing the blood on him, Chen Xingyu immediately asked if he was hurt anywhere. However, Suemo didn't answer him. His mind and eyes were completely focused on Yang Yu, very worried about his injuries, wanting to get him to the hospital quickly. Although Chen Xingyu was hurt, he still immediately called for emergency services. Seeing Yang Yu being carried out, he wanted to check on Suemo again. However, he just walked past him and followed Yang Yu. Chen Xingyu clenched his fists. Perhaps when he fell into the sea, the outcome was already decided. Yang Yu could jump down without hesitation, but he had frozen in place. Perhaps from that moment on, he had lost even the right to compete. In the hospital, Yang Yu finally opened his eyes, but he didn't see Suemo. Only Sister Zhou was there, loudly showing off her biceps, emphasizing she would fight to death with the Qin guy. He couldn't help but ask about Sumo's whereabouts, only to learn that he had gone alone to confront Chen Xingyu about his role. Yang Yu was instantly alarmed. He wanted to see that psycho alone. Could he have been taken advantage of? Thinking of this, he immediately pulled out his four and quickly left the hospital. Yang Yu, wearing hospital clothes, arrived at Jiala Group looking furious. However, before entering, he heard indescribable sounds. He kicked open the office door, cursing Chen Xingyu as a beast. However, he found the two were just playing chess. Seeing him come, Chen Xingyu guessed his condition must have improved. Yang Yu then learned that they had made a deal. If Suemo could win one game, Chen wouldn't replace Yang Yu's role. But they had played 38 times, and Suemo still lost completely. Seeing this, Yang Yu immediately squatted in front of him, comforting him that he didn't need to try so hard. Chen Xingyu was surprised to hear this. Wasn't he the one who valued fame and fortune above all else? Unexpectedly, Yang Yu expressed that he now had something more important in his heart. Chen Xingyu sighed helplessly, saying he should have been more firm and kicked him out of the crew earlier. But the next second, he punched Yang Yu, urging him to go back and recover, not to delay the filming schedule. Suemo and Yang Yu were instantly surprised. It turned out his threat to replace the role was just standing up for Suemo, not wanting him to be hurt again. Yang Yu immediately swore that this time, he would definitely hold Suemo firmly in his hands. As they spoke, Chen Xingyu pushed both of them out of the office and reminded Suemo that for the first kissing scene when filming resumes, they didn't need tape anymore. They could fake it. Suemo immediately bristled after hearing this. His lips were swollen when he removed the tape last time, and now they tell him they could fake it. While he was yelling at the office, Yang Yu suddenly laughed. So that's what it was. He thought the swelling was from bruising. Suemo was angry. How dare he suppress his laughter here? They hadn't settled their score yet. That day, Yang Yu told Chen Xingyu. He looked down on Suemo, despised him, and wouldn't give him a second glance, if not for more resources. This had been bothering Suemo all along. Unexpectedly, Yang Yu admitted that those were his true thoughts. Just as Suemo was about to explode, he immediately pulled him into his arms, apologizing that those were his foolish thoughts from before. Then he expressed his current attitude with a passionate kiss, asking for another chance. While Suemo was still feeling shy, he suddenly noticed his wound was still bleeding. So he immediately demanded that he get treatment first. Sumo helplessly. Still bleeding? Was the four inserted into an artery or something? The next second, Yang Yu held his hand and left, feeling elated. Soon, Suemo and Yang Yu's romance topped Weibo's trending list. Yang Yu also successfully entered the Baichao Awards, thanks to the drama Bailey Chang'an. On the red carpet, Yang Yu and Chen Xingyu pretentiously congratulated each other. The audience thought they had a good relationship privately, even thinking they admired each other. However, in reality, the two were competing, gripping each other's wrists until they cracked. At this moment, Suemo appeared before them in a blue strapless dress, immediately attracting both of their attention. Yang Yu was stunned by her beauty, while Suemo thought she looked taller because of her high heels. Yang Yu lovingly touched her ear, telling her she looked really beautiful. Soon, the Baichao Award ceremony officially began with thunderous applause from the audience. The first award of the evening was for Best Newcomer. The winner was Ganala. Watching the woman's exaggerated performance, Su Mo wondered, does everyone have to react so dramatically when receiving an award? Yang Yu hadn't expected him to be so confident about winning, but Su Mo was confident. The person she chose couldn't fail to win even a Best Supporting Actor award. Soon the Best Supporting Actor winner would be announced, but he was unusually nervous. He twisted the lead actor's hand tightly, and finally, the host called out Yang Yu's name. Su Mo was even more excited than him, tears welling up in her eyes involuntarily. However, the male lead didn't immediately go on stage. This honor wasn't his alone. He invited Su Mo to accept the award with him. Their relationship was officially announced at the awards ceremony in this way. Su Mo's face was full of happiness. However, just as they stepped onto the stage together, the favorability rating reached 100%. Su Mo watched Yang Yu disappear, realizing she had completed another mission. At this time, Xiaobai appeared promptly, congratulating her on successfully passing the hell level and inviting her to quickly proceed to another world. However, Su Mo felt lost at this moment, so she had to leave after all, but she quickly adjusted her mood, ready to head towards a new brother. However, the next second, a voice suddenly called out to him. It was Yang Yu. Watching the male lead walk towards her, Su Mo expectantly wondered if he had discovered her true self. After hesitating for a moment, Yang Yu suddenly bent down in front of him. Su Mo felt her heart was about to jump out. Proposing right after finding her body was too fast. However, the man just bent down to pick up a pin. Then he attached it to his tie, preparing to go on stage to receive the award. Watching his departing figure, Su Mo couldn't hold back anymore and ran back to heaven crying. At this moment, Yang Yu, who was about to receive the award, suddenly stopped. He seemed to hear the girls crying. In a daze, he heard Su Mo calling him to go on stage together. He immediately turned around, but the woman before his eyes was completely unfamiliar. This blurred female figure definitely wasn't Su Mo. In an instant, Yang Yu's brain waves became chaotic, and his world was about to collapse. Fortunately, two angels appeared just in time and instantly cleared his memory. Both were sweating profusely. Why does Xiaobai's system always have bugs? Can't even erase memories properly. This was the second time already. Although dissatisfied with Xiaobai's work, the two angel colleagues still decided to carry Yang Yu back. However, he had set the event's exit at the women's restroom entrance. The two colleagues immediately decided to kill Xiao by when they got back. Meanwhile, Su Mo, who had returned to heaven, was still crying. Xiaobai was worried. She had been crying all the way from the previous world back to heaven. Was she really okay? However, his next casual remark hit her pain point again. Su Mo felt even worse. At least in the previous world, she had a dinosaur egg. This time she had nothing at all. Xiaobai comforted her not to be too sad, saying he had good news. However, the good news turned out to be that the next world would be 10 times harder than this one. Su Mo immediately became angry, grabbing Xiaobai's wings and threatening to send him to hell for repentance. Xiaobai quickly begged for mercy, telling her that if she passes successfully, she could return to reality and live again. Hearing this news, Su Mo became extremely happy and immediately asked if the previous promise about getting a boyfriend still counted. Xiaobai kicked her into the next world, suggesting they discuss these matters after she returns alive. Su Mo was speechless. This was the third time. Couldn't they change the entry method? Xiaobai sighed, resignedly sending the protagonist into level 3, hoping nothing would go wrong this time. Level 3 began, and Su Mo opened her eyes in a forest. However, just as she was about to turn around, a fierce tiger pounced at her from behind. At that moment, a man came running and leaped into the air. He raised his sword to slay the beast. Su Mo watched the man in midair and instantly became infatuated. Her ideal person was a great hero. However, the next second, the man was pinned down by the tiger, completely helpless. Sumontak was speechless. It turned out the tiger wasn't the reckless one. It was Wen Chong randomly waving his sword, trying to make the tiger let go. Su Mo watched with a dark expression, realizing she couldn't count on this guy at all. She jumped forward and kicked the tiger away forcefully. The rescued Wen Chong wanted to team up with Su Mo to attack the tiger. Su Mo was speechless hearing this. While the tiger was distracted, she quickly pulled him behind a large tree. She observed carefully and found that this tiger had strong, demonic energy, probably with hundreds of years of cultivation. At this time, the severely injured Wenchong urged Su Mo to leave first, deciding to distract the tiger himself so his junior sister could escape. Seeing his righteous appearance, Su Mo suspected he might be putting on an act, but pretended to agree with his proposal. But unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Wenchong screamed and prepared to rush out. Su Mo quickly pulled him back and covered his mouth, feeling annoyed. But by now, the tiger had heard their voices and turned towards their hiding place. They quickly got up and ran. When Wenchong saw the tiger approaching, he suddenly stopped. Su Mo asked why he stopped. He just shouted for her to run, then turned around to cast a spell, creating a huge barrier. However, it was instantly torn apart by the tiger's claw, not lasting even 2 seconds. The tiger didn't stop. The next moment, it attacked the person kneeling before it. Su Mo rushed forward to stop it, but was too late. Just as the tiger was about to swing its claw at Wenchong's head, a shout came from nearby. It was Fu Chen, Su Mo's master. At this moment, the previously fierce tiger stopped its attack and fled in panic. Fu Chen approached and asked Su Mo why she had been out so long without returning. Before Su Mo could answer, he noticed the severely injured Wenchong. He quickly asked what happened. Seeing her master before her, who was always second best, Su Mo was so surprised she forgot to answer his question. Just as Fu Chen was about to treat Wenchong, Su Mo turned Wenchong's face away. Fu Chen saw his disciple's action and showed an exaggerated expression. Su Mo ignored him. After careful examination, she finally discovered that the male lead's memories had also been erased, and she felt relieved. Fu Chen vaguely heard Su Mo mumbling something about brains and asked what she said. She stammered that it was nothing. Then she quickly asked her master to help treat Wenchong. Su Mo held the unconscious Wenchong, thinking about how he had accompanied her through 3 worlds, yet had his memories erased each time. She felt pity. This was the last time, and she wondered if they would ever meet again. Just then, Fu Chen shook his head beside her, expressing with a heavy face that he had arrived a bit late. Su Mo became worried, thinking Wenchong couldn't be saved, but he was just regretting not having time to catch rabbits. She wasn't in the mood for jokes. Fu Chen told her not to worry, and together they carried Wenchong towards Jinsu Peak. On the way, Su Mo asked Fu Chen about the technique that scared away the tiger, but he said it wasn't him, as he didn't have that ability. Su Mo wondered if she had been seeing things. Soon, they arrived at a bamboo house on Sansheng Jingjingsu Peak. At the entrance, they paused. They called inside. A silver-haired man wearing a half-mask emerged. It was Wenchong's master, Ronghe, the Wind Master of Sansheng Jingjingsu Peak. Seeing his injured and unconscious disciple, he coldly questioned Su Mo and the others if they had gone to the back mountain. Fu Chen was displeased with Brother Ronghe's attitude and said he was overprotective of Wenchong. Ronghe sarcastically replied they were equally bad. He took his disciple, warning Fu Chen not to lead Wenchong into more trouble, then returned to his bamboo house. Fu Chen was angered by his rudeness. Su Mo quickly stopped him and asked why he had such a strong reaction about Wenchong going to the back mountain. He told her that he had always been overprotective of his disciple, but said nothing more. Then they walked together towards Tiancha Peak. On the way, Su Mo thought the male lead must have many secrets. While her master walked ahead, she hid behind a tree to ask Xiao Bai for the script. But finding nothing in the script, she became furious. What was this nonsense? Su Mo angrily tore up the script and threw it in Xiao Bai's face. He smiled and told her there was no script or strategy guide this time, but the male lead's initial favorability would be set at 60 to increase the passing rate. Su Mo suspected this was some new plot. Sure enough, Xiao Bai told her the level had a new feature. Reaching 90 favorability would earn a life-saving hit. Su Mo's face darkened. Didn't this mean there would be life-threatening dangers ahead? Just then, her master called from afar, and Xiao Bai took the chance to disappear. Su Mo felt something was off about this level and pondered about the script. Suddenly, she sensed someone watching from the bamboo forest behind her, but when she turned around, no one was there. She had to catch up with her master, who called again. After she left, someone emerged from the bamboo forest. It was Wenchong's master, Ronghe. In Tianchai Peak's kitchen, Su Mo was cooking when she first asked her master about her and her fellow disciples' backgrounds. Fu Chen, lying in his chair, though puzzled, told her they were all abandoned children. Regarding Wenchong's background, he He only mentioned that his parents were murdered and said nothing more. Though Su Mo wasn't satisfied, she had to let it go. She thought the male lead's setting must be that of an unfortunate weakling. She just needed to create some secret manuals or arrange some fortuitous encounters to increase his favorability. With this in mind, she happily carried a lunchbox to Jingsu Peak to build favorability. While running cheerfully, she suddenly bumped into Wenchong, who was looking for her. Worried she might fall, he quickly grabbed her waist. Then he quickly let go with a red face, saying he was worried and came to check on her. Suemo looked at his pure, shy face and smiled, saying it was fine, then pulled him to taste the noodles she made. Looking at the dark cuisine before him, Wenchong had a strange sense of déjà vu. Just then, Su Zhong passed by and told Wenchong that he had urgent matters to discuss with him. Puzzled, Wenchong asked what it was about. He was told it might be about going down the mountain to eliminate evil. Suemo, hearing about going down the mountain, became excited and immediately expressed her desire to help the sect leader. Wenchong quickly followed, saying he was willing to go too, as it was his duty. Just then, Fui Chen and Rong he suddenly appeared, both refusing in unison. Seeing the tension, Su Zhong quickly slipped away. Wenchong had to ask his master why they couldn't go down the mountain. Rong told him it was dangerous below, and they shouldn't act rashly. Meanwhile, Fui Chen was also persuading Su Mo to stay on the mountain. However, Wenchong insisted on going down, saying he couldn't just hide on the mountain as it would disappoint his master's teachings. Hearing this, Su Mo immediately agreed. Seeing his disciple's determination, Rong frowned and told him to go if he wanted, then turned and left. Fui Chen, seeing this, comforted Wenchong not to think too much. Then he suddenly pushed Su Mo towards him, asking him to take care of his disciple after going down the mountain. Wenchong solemnly promised to take good care of his junior sister. Faced with Su Mo's surprise, Fui Chen helplessly said he couldn't stop them and just advised them to be careful. Finally, he left with a sigh. As the two remained standing there touched, suddenly, Wenchong realized his hands were on his junior sister's shoulders. He shouted and let go, red-faced and flustered. Suemo looked at his innocent reaction helplessly and pushed him to go eat at Fuzhou Peak. The next day, they left Sanshungjing with their luggage, preparing to meet other fellow disciples at Zhuxi Town. Before leaving, Wenchong looked back at the mountain gate, bidding farewell to his master in his heart. Then he followed Su Mo playfully down the mountain. Up on the mountain, Fuichen asked Rong, he beside him, if he was really okay with this. He coldly replied that one must walk their own path and bear their own consequences, then turned and left. Fuichen looked in the direction his disciple had gone, his heart full of worry. He hoped they would be safe. On the way down, Wenchong watched Su Mo singing ahead of him, thinking his junior sister seemed happier than him. Unexpectedly, she suddenly leaned back on his shoulder, asking him to guess why. Wenchong blushed and said he didn't know. She excitedly told him that going down the mountain meant they could eat, drink, play, and be free, deliberately emphasizing that they could be together. However, just as she finished speaking, she heard Wenchong shout "Beast!" and felt dejected. But he was pointing behind her, and when she turned around, they saw a huge dead wild boar lying on the ground. She thought about how much money it would be worth in modern times. Just then, there was a sound from nearby. He turned and asked who was there. Before the person could respond, he kicked them in the forehead, knocking them to the ground. Upon closer inspection, they discovered it was Yu Yuanshu, a disciple from Fuzhou Peak. Wenchong asked why he was alone here. He explained that fog had appeared earlier, and he got separated from his fellow disciples. When the fog cleared, he returned here only to be kicked by his junior sister. Su Mo immediately knelt and apologized. Wenchong suggested they wait together for the others, but Su Mo said she didn't want to stay with the dead pig. Yu Yuanshu just noticed the dead pig and was startled. He said there was originally a large rock there, not a corpse. Hearing this, Su Mo trembled in fear and asked if he was mistaken. He firmly stated he wasn't wrong, saying even the ant-hole he had poked was still there. Su Mo wondered how such supernatural events could occur in a cultivation world. Wenchong asked Yu Yuanshu if he had seen other large rocks. He replied there were several more ahead. When the three went to check, they were shocked to find that all the previous rocks had turned into various animal corpses. Su Mo stutteringly confirmed with Yu Yuanshu, who assured that the positions hadn't changed. Wenchong noticed these animals, like the wild boar, all had their necks bitten through and died from blood loss. This wasn't normal hunting. Yu Yuanshu suddenly realized there must have been something strange about the fog. He began worrying about the other disciples, but Su Mo raised a question. If the previous rocks were fake, how could they be sure these corpses were real? Senior brother looked at the boar with a headache, feeling there was no way to verify. Su Mo examined the pig with a tree branch, wondering if the disciples had killed it. Senior brother suggested roasting the pig to test if it was real. When Chong said it didn't matter whether it was real or not, they should find the other disciples and leave the forest quickly. The three agreed and set off immediately. On the downhill path, Su Mo was already exhausted. Senior brother found it strange they hadn't seen anyone on the road. At this point, when Chong blocked their path, he had spotted lights ahead. They had reached Jushi Town. Su Mo instantly revived, as if she hadn't seen lights in several lifetimes. But senior brother found it strange that Jushi Town had shifted much further west than it should be. Su Mo suggested that since things were strange, senior brother should guard the village entrance while she and Wen Chong investigated inside. Senior brother protested her coldness, but she found him too conspicuous. Before he could react, Su Mo had already pulled Wen Chong away quickly. This was clearly main plot material, and she couldn't let him disrupt the flow. At Jushi Town's entrance, Su Mo and Wen Chong quietly observed the village's activity. Everything seemed normal. Wen Chong suggested going in, thinking it might just be an ordinary town. Su Mo found it strange that despite all the weird events on the mountain, these people hadn't locked themselves inside. While thinking, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. She fell into Wen Chong's arms, creating an instantly intimate atmosphere. Nearby, a little boy covered his face, repeatedly calling out shameless and how embarrassing. Su Mo angrily questioned the boy about information regarding the cultivators. His answer shocked her greatly. Then, the boy detailed what his sister had seen. Su Mo pondered that the three people his sister saw might have been them, remembering the limp corpse when senior brother was waiting for them, and their discussion about whether to roast it to taste the flavor. He thought the Daoist senior brother's companions would surely return for revenge, so in his next life, he'd rather be blind. After all, keeping eyeballs was just for show. But then remembering the corpse was still on the mountain, he felt something strange again. The little boy obediently told them if they wanted to know more, they could go home with him to ask his sister. Just as when Chong agreed, Su Mo questioned the boy about how he knew the corpse was still on the mountain when he hadn't been there, yet seemed so certain. Realizing he'd said too much, the boy transformed, revealing his true wolf-faced form. In an instant, Su Mo and Wen Chong simultaneously performed the wolf extinction seal. The smoke they released quickly took someone away. When it cleared, Su Mo found Wen Chong had vanished. Turning around, she saw senior brother running towards her, waving. Without hesitation, she delivered a flying kick, knocking senior brother to the ground. After landing gracefully, she thought his brain shouldn't just be for show either. The truth hit quickly as senior brother produced an entry token that couldn't be copied by the Three Lives Mirror. After sitting up, he explained his purpose. Su Mo told him she didn't know where to find Wen Chong. Senior brother directed her to search southwest, revealing this place was actually a mass grave. They immediately rushed southwest to find him, fearing they might be too late. They failed to notice the black-clad figure hiding in the darkness behind them. Senior brother pointed out the temple's direction at the town entrance. Su Mo looked back. The previously bustling town had indeed turned into wasteland. Just as senior brother confirmed his judgment was correct, he was struck from behind with a knife hand. Su Mo heard something odd and turned to ask what happened. He joked, asking if she was plotting to secretly attack him in revenge. After denying this, senior brother reminded her finding Wen Chong was most urgent, so she continued following him forward. But in reality, the real senior brother had been hidden in the concealed shade of trees. At some ruins, Wen Chong finally woke up, rising but unsure of his location. He discovered all the Three Lives disciples who had disappeared during the day were there. Then, he overheard two masked figures in black discussing changing formations and someone called Old Five going to capture senior brother and junior sister. As they talked, they realized Old Five might be unreliable and quickly ran out to support Wen Chong. He took the chance to check the disciples' safety. As he prepared to hide them in a safe place, he suddenly received another heavy blow. Looking up with difficulty, he saw it was the demon from earlier. Meanwhile, Su-mo walked until exhausted but still couldn't see the temple. Jia's senior brother silently reached into his robe while telling her they'd see it soon. The next second, he quickly stabbed his weapon into Su-mo's body, coldly stating she'd see it after death. Su-mo turned back disgustedly to look at the fake senior brother. He was shocked to find she wasn't injured, only realizing after her kind reminder that he was holding the knife backward. She then delivered a flying kick, demanding to know the real senior brother's whereabouts. No matter how he tried to cover up, Su-mo saw through everything. Enraged and embarrassed, he began chasing to kill her. Su-mo could only flee while summoning Xiaobai, unlocking a new character with current favorability to advance the plot. She mainly hoped the new character would rescue her, but seeing the two people who appeared, she felt instantly betrayed by Xiaobai. But the outcome changed instantly as the new characters strode confidently toward what lay behind them. They gave senior brother Jia a thorough beating from both sides. Based on the current situation, Su-mo immediately switched to dramatic mode. After reluctantly cheering for senior brother Jia, she said she'd go ahead first. Then she disappeared from sight at sprint speed. Finally, Su-mo found the temple senior brother mentioned. At the entrance, she saw Wenchong in battle mode. With one leg lift, he kicked his opponent away. Just as he got up and greeted Su-mo, she warned him about behind. He also noticed the sneak attack behind him and turned to deliver a kick. After dealing with that, he prepared to check on Wenchong, but saw he had already fallen victim. Su-mo kept calling Wenchong's name. He had the protagonist's buff. He couldn't die like this. Suddenly, she noticed his cinnabar birthmark had disappeared. Wenchong slowly opened his eyes. Su-mo reflexively jumped back 8 feet, shouting about the undead. Then she thought she should be happy instead. Seeing he could still breathe after taking the hit, senior brother Jia prepared to use his ultimate move. So Su-mo also prepared to fight with her protagonist's dignity. Wenchong stood in front of her and used his 2-second spell. She watched in amazement, thinking this guy must have a fish's memory to not learn his lesson. As Wenchong smiled slightly, a burst of intense light exploded around him. The power was so strong. He had matured enough to fight monsters on his own. Even the two newcomers who arrived later were pushed back simultaneously. Wenchong's attacks were precise and deadly, taking out 3 people in 2 moves. Meanwhile, the demon beside them began to whimper. Before Su-mo could finish trying to get information from him, he fled as quick as lightning. Suddenly feeling electricity behind her, she turned to find Wenchong, who seemed about to attack her. She cried out senior brother in alarm. Fortunately, Wenchong seemed to hear and stopped. His eyes dimmed as he repeated the words senior brother. Then he was knocked out by a knife hand strike. Su-mo sighed in relief. She remarked on the close call of nearly dying by an ally's hand. She helped Wenchong lean against the wall. She analyzed why the male lead went berserk after his birthmark disappeared, attacking friend and foe alike. She snapped her fingers to summon Xiaobai. Xiaobai appeared excitedly and congratulated her on escaping the pursuit. Su-mo grudgingly thanked him for the great help. He quickly got back to the main topic. Asked what help was needed, Su-mo said she wanted to know what happened to the male lead before. However, Xiaobai suddenly revealed his current favorability score, saying with 0 points, she couldn't get any help. Su-mo awkwardly questioned if he had been formatted, though it seemed the male lead was the one who had been formatted. Su-mo pulled out a noose, saying she'd give up and see him in the next life. Xiaobai rushed to persuade her to reconsider. After all, she'd endured so much already. He checked the system and learned that the male lead had experienced a momentary death state, explaining that death state meant being judged as dead, so favorability automatically reset to 0. Su-mo recalled that Wenchong had that moment of death after taking a hit for her. She was touched, but her emotions were interrupted by Xiaobai's arrangements. As they bickered, Wenchong showed signs of waking up. Just as Su-mo asked Xiaobai if Wenchong was still in his original state, Xiaobai had already fled. Then Wenchong's concerned voice came from behind. Su-mo turned around, entering her dramatic mode. She threw herself into Wenchong's arms, coquettishly scolding him for recklessly taking the attack for her. What if something had happened to him? Wenchong embraced her, gently saying as long as she was safe, that's all that mattered. Su-mo's pupils trembled as she looked at him in disbelief. How did he suddenly become so flirtatious? Not used to him being like this. Su-mo quickly made an excuse about finding senior brother and tried to leave, refusing his help. Unexpectedly, Wenchong misunderstood, thinking she found him useless. Su Mo hurriedly explained she was just worried about him. She didn't want him risking himself for her again, but thinking that if his favorability dropped to zero again, it would be better to keep him close. So she sincerely invited him to search together. Surprisingly, Wencheng suddenly changed his attitude, saying he was just joking. Besides, someone would tell them where his senior brother was, so there was no need to search. Then came a thunderous sound, and a black shadow was thrown into view. The shadow begged for mercy after landing, offering to help find senior brother if they spared his life. After confirming the shadow's identity, Wencheng asked again if he really knew where his junior brother was. The shadow confirmed it was true, but they needed to hurry. Otherwise, his junior brother would be trapped by heart demons and never see daylight again. So while bound, he led Wencheng and Su Mo forward. Su Mo learned from the shadow that they had been watched since leaving Sansheng, and every step was under the shadow group's control until something unexpected happened. Wencheng asked what these heart demons were and their dangers. The shadow explained it was a type of illusion. It would make people indulge in fantasies without self-awareness, eventually dying from mental exhaustion. At this moment, senior brother started jumping around, imagining himself becoming sect leader, commanding heroes, and capturing demons. Su Mo asked if these were things senior brother could never achieve in his lifetime. The shadow incredulously asked if their sect leader knew about his such great ambitions. Next moment, Su Mo asked with a hidden threat to stop gossiping and tell them how to break the spell. Apparently, it required a strong stimulus to wake up, something that strikes deep into the soul. But for Su Mo, he believed physical pain would be more effective than striking the soul. So senior brother was eventually awakened by his punch, but remained attached to the illusion after waking. Just as the shadow was saying senior brother was missing something important, making him obsessed, a flying knife pierced his chest, killing him instantly. Wencheng asked senior brother to look after Su Mo while he investigated the knife source. When he caught up with the person in black, they exchanged moves, their palms clashing. The black-clad person left a message, telling him to go see the real Jushi town and realize what mistakes were made over the years, then vanished in a flash. Su Mo ran over concerned about Wencheng, but he seemed like a different person again, acting coy. Su Mo felt like this world was making her pursue a mentally ill person. Senior brother rushed over, reporting the shadow was dead, and asked what to do next. Wencheng told him to take the disciples back to Sansheng border for recovery, while he would visit the real Jushi town. Wencheng and Su Mo arrived at the real Jushi town. As Master said, strange things happen here frequently. The town was silent and desolate. Su Mo tried to stop Wencheng from investigating further, believing it was the Five Brothers plot, but he insisted they should come take a look. Later, they heard someone advertising special deals at an inn, so they went to the inn's entrance. They saw a shop with a waiter at the entrance, who pushed them inside without explanation. The innkeeper, having nodded guests for a long time, welcomed them warmly. Su Mo just expressed that she didn't want to stay, but Wencheng thought they could rest after 2 days of travel. While Su Mo was discussing the buy one get one free promotion with the innkeeper, he craftily brought out a straw doll, saying this was the free person. Suddenly, a young woman burst in, asking if anyone had seen her brother. The innkeeper was about to chase her away, saying he hadn't seen him. Su Mo felt she knew this person. The young woman grabbed Wencheng's sleeve, asking urgently. The innkeeper chased her out, and Wencheng inquired about her story. They learned that Jushi town was once prosperous until people began dying unnatural deaths, including her brother, turning it into a desolate place. The innkeeper renamed the inn to No Return and had the waiter show them to their upstairs rooms. Su Mo lay in bed, unable to sleep, lamenting how difficult her mission was. Tossing and turning, she regretted that just when she found someone normal, he turned out to be wolf-faced. While turning over, she saw the cute normal face appear before her. After 3 seconds, she sat up immediately, horrified to realize this was the free person the innkeeper mentioned. Sleeping, Wencheng suddenly heard fighting from his junior sister's room and rushed over, pushing open the door. He saw Su Mo biting the little boy's arm with all her might, recognizing him as the wolf demon they met before. The little boy, without a word, prepared to help, using his useless 2-second technique. Su Mo remembered Wencheng's chest might be key to switching his battle mode. She quickly jumped in front of him, She pounced and pressed his chest, but the blushing Wenchong showed no signs of switching modes. This suggestive scene was witnessed by the sister looking for her brother, who wondered if she was interrupting something. But soon, she found her brother. Su Mo, fearing the wolf demon would harm him, quickly pulled him back, warning caution. The little boy called out sister, shocking the other two who didn't understand. The sister pressed down on his head, apologizing to Wenchong and Su Mo. She introduced themselves. They were indeed siblings, sister Jiang Su and brother Jiang Qi. Wenchong didn't believe the boy was Jiang Su's brother, since the innkeeper said he was dead. Jiang Su explained someone revived him, but they had to obey that person. They each drank 2 bowls of blood and woke up. There were different side effects. The zombies was helping people bleed, though he never harmed anyone. He was kept locked at home, but occasionally escaped. That's why the zombie would search for it like a madman. As she continued, when she mentioned Jiang Qi probably followed Wenchong because of his blood scent that normal people couldn't smell, Suemo questioned how she knew normal people couldn't smell it. Unexpectedly, Jiang Su showed a cold smile and spoke shocking words. As soon as she finished speaking, Wenchong and Su Mo both gasped. Su Mo scoffed, challenging Jiang Su to transform. The next second, Jiang Su placed her hand under her chin and began spinning her head continuously until Su Mo begged her to stop the supernatural display. After recovering from dizziness, Jiang Su explained her brother often went to the mountains to drink animal blood, and fearing discovery, she turned corpses into stones. When Chong realized and suspected she was behind the mountain mist, but Jiang Su quickly denied it, saying it was the 5 brothers' trap set only to catch her. Suemo was puzzled, wondering if it was just because he had a similar bloody scent from back then. Jiang Su shook her head, saying it must be related to the Jushi town tragedy, since only he survived. After speaking, she leaned over Wenchong, flirtatiously noting he did seem different. Su Mo grabbed the hand reaching for his face, clearly displaying a protective stance. She warned Jiang Su they weren't familiar, to speak properly and keep hands off. Wenchong, protected behind Su Mo, asked Jiang Su why she told them everything. Unexpectedly, he took the chance to confess to Su Mo, asking if she believed they could turn away from darkness. But Su Mo grabbed both of them and threw them out, bidding them farewell. Outside, Jiang Qi asked his sister why she didn't let him bite their necks earlier. Jiang Su told him Ghost Masters let her change the plan. They'd wait until they left the formation before acting. Su Mo woke up to noise outside, furiously opened the door, and demanded to know if the inn was being robbed. Before finishing, she felt a hidden weapon pass through her hair, quickly ducking behind the railing to look downstairs. 2 groups were arguing in the hall. From their words, she understood it involved San Sheng sect disciples. Coincidentally, when Chong came out of his room, telling her he'd just messaged their master about returning to Sansheng border that afternoon. Su Mo now understood master's words about having no backing and forgetting others, as both groups downstairs looked up at their location. Then, someone below invited them to start the show. Su Mo grabbed Wenchong's hand and quickly retreated to their room. To not miss the drama, she poked 3 holes in the door, leaving 2 for Wenchong, inviting him to watch. The 2 groups continued their standoff. The yellow-haired disciple berated Zheng Yuan Gate's senior disciple Shiyu, accusing him of only gossiping behind backs. The innkeeper tried mediating, but was rebuffed by the yellow-haired disciple, pointing at the silent Shiyu. He said if not for Zheng Yuan Gate's evil deeds causing disaster, Sansheng border wouldn't be in this state. The yellow-haired disciple stepped forward, grabbed Shiyu's collar, demanding how he dared criticize Sansheng border, then push him away with one palm. Seeing their senior treated this way, Zheng Yuan Gate's purple-haired disciple stepped in front, explaining their master had resolved the matter a century ago, urging the other not to be aggressive. Before finishing, the yellow-haired disciple laughed mockingly, pointing out Jushi Town's current state matched the past, suspecting Zheng Yuan Gate had created another demon. As they tried to rebut, Su Mo, finding the hole too small, tore a larger hole in the door. The noise drew everyone's attention to the hole. The yellow-haired disciple left the inn immediately. The purple-haired junior wanted to pursue, but was stopped by his senior, saying their mission was more important. Shi used his power to send his sword through the hole, terrifying Su Mo behind the door. Then he heard his junior report their master was missing. He retrieved his sword and decided to search for him. Su Mo opened the door, watching them leave, complaining internally about getting loaded with tasks on her first trip down the mountain. Beside her, when Chong pondered what major event happened back then, Sumo said the most urgent matter was compensating the inn. They emptied all their silver and dried meat before being allowed to leave the inn. When Chong watched Sumo crying loudly, comforting him that they still had water skins for sustenance, Jiangsu watched the two leave, planning to ambush them from behind, as Ghost Master instructed. Just then, a hand landed on Wen Chong's shoulder. Sumo screamed internally, worried he'd eventually die of fright in this world. When he recognized who it was, he was utterly shocked. Sumo looked at the familiar elderly man, recalled his previous help, and was moved to tears. When Chong, watching his junior, thought he was still upset about the dried meat, the suddenly appearing old man assured Sumo he meant no harm. Seeing the old man appear, Jiangsu quickly hid behind a tree to observe. Upon seeing his face, he guessed his identity. When Chong greeted the old man with a fist salute, then asked his purpose. Watching the grandfatherly scene, Sumo had a revelation. According to cultivation novel tropes, this elder might be about to pass on his life's teachings to the protagonist before dying, then fade away after completing his task. Sumo thought this plot finally made sense, unlike the chest-touching power-up nonsense. The old man acted as Sumo expected, reaching into his sleeve, saying his time was short and needed their help. He pulled out a scroll, unrolled it, and asked for directions. Sumo pointed speechlessly at the nearby arch, telling him that was Jushi Town. The old man contentedly put away the map and his staff, bid them farewell, promising to send a thank-you letter later. When Chong, concerned for the elder's health, offered to escort him, unexpectedly, the old man teleported several meters away, declining the offer, saying he needed to hurry for dinner. When Chong admired the elder's agility, while Sumo fumed, thinking this random NPC was unreliable, he angrily pulled Wen Chong forward. The waiting Jiang Su seized the opportunity to ambush them. Suddenly, the old man reappeared, asking for their address. Hearing movement, Sumo saw Jiang Su attacking from behind and quickly pulled Wen Chong in front as cover. Unexpectedly, he collided with Jiang Qi instead. They separated to dodge Jiang Qi's attack. Seeing demons attacking them, the old man used his staff to sweep Sumo toward Wen Chong. He landed right in front of the attacking Jiang Su. Sumo thought he was done for. For some reason, the attack stopped. The old man withdrew his staff, approached Jiang Qi, gently patted his head, warning him not to hurt people, saying good children get rewards. When Chong protected Sumo behind him, telling them to come at him instead, Jiang Su said he only wanted to kill him. Suddenly his brother's cry came from behind. He turned to find his brother bound by the staff. Jiang Su rushed toward his brother, but Jiang Qi stopped midway, intimidated by the old man, begging him to spare his brother. But the old man said they must be eliminated for their murderous sins. Then he raised his hand, gathering power to kill Jiang Qi. Unexpectedly, Wen Chong pleaded for mercy, hoping he would spare the unfortunate siblings. Seeing this, the old man relented and released his hold on Jiang Qi. Jiang Su rushed to embrace his unconscious brother, apologizing repeatedly. Thinking about their survival, he couldn't help but weep. Sumo told him that living by harming others was worse than finding release in death. When Chong fell into deep thought, Jiang Su bit his lip and remained silent. The old man, seeing this, said he'd spare their lives if they were truly repentant. He waved his staff, preparing to remove their spiritual powers. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Qi suddenly opened his eyes. Breaking free from his sister's embrace, he lunged at Sumo. The old man swung his staff, striking Jiang Qi's back fatally. Unexpectedly, Jiang Su shielded Sumo, taking her brother's attack. Jiang Su collapsed to her knees, still holding her brother tightly. She questioned the old man's broken promise. He shook his head, saying they refused to repent. Sumo supported Jiang Su, shocked by her actions, wondering if he'd misread the script. Jiang Su looked skyward, eyes full of regret. Her trembling hand touched Sumo's, asking him to live well in their stead, then closed her eyes forever. When Chong watched Sumo freeze, still holding the siblings, about to comfort him. Just then, Shiyu, the meddlesome senior disciple of Jinyuan Gate, appeared searching for his master, wailing while clutching his master's leg, complaining about his wandering despite poor direction sense. Shiyuan looked up and saw the protagonist group nearby. He quickly bowed, thanking them for finding their master and hoping they'd forgive the earlier misunderstanding. understanding. Gu Nanxiu, Jinyuan Gate's master, learning they were from Sanqing realm, asked about Fui Chen. Hearing this, Su Mo, still dazed, spilled all his master's secrets. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Master Gu marveled at his changes. Late at night, Fui Chen was roasting chicken in the forest. He suddenly sneezed, wondering who was talking about him. He heard dead branches breaking behind him and casually threw a hidden weapon. It was Rong He, who caught the weapon and complained about his heavy-handedness. Fui Chen waved his stick, gesturing Rong He to sit. As soon as he sat, Fui Chen asked about his disciples' whereabouts. Rong He said they might be delayed by something on the road. Fui Chen stirred the fire, complaining his disciple didn't care about his master. Rong He suggested searching tomorrow if worried, but Fui Chen acted tsundere, claiming he didn't care. They both stared at the fire in silence. Moments later, Fui Chen suddenly burst into tears, expressing how much he missed Su Mo Rong. He covered his mouth, suppressing laughter. Fui Chen said keeping disciples close would ensure their safety, thinking it might be a good solution. Recalling his past experiences, he sighed that protection could only last for a moment, not a lifetime. Rong He was relieved to see him come to terms with this, but he told him to handle his own affairs and prepare explanations for Wen Chang's questioning. When Fui Chen turned to look at Rong He discovered his roasted chicken was stolen. He immediately grabbed the fox's ears and cast a spell, threatening him to return the chicken. Rong He rolled up his sleeve and looked at the burns on his body, then silently covered them up. He told Fui Chen he planned to give him a birthday gift, but Fui Chen was still engaged in his battle of wits with the fox. Rong He sighed helplessly, deciding to wait until his birthday to tell him. At Jushi Formation, four people sat around the campfire, their conversation unveiling events from 100 years ago. The former master stroked his beard and began the story. It happened 100 years ago. After his master's death, his senior brother Xin Yao took over as Jinyuan Gate's master. People from various sects came to pay respects, including Fui Chen, then the only direct disciple of Sanqing Realm's Wu Wang immortal master. Unexpectedly, his senior brother Xin Yao went berserk from cultivation gone wrong, slaughtering dozens from their sect. Even Sanqing Realm suffered heavy casualties trying to stop him. Fui Chen's junior brother died in that catastrophe, and he never recovered from it. The catastrophe ended with Shun Yao's death. Master Gu wiped his tears, expressing relief at hearing news of Fui Chen. Su Mo was incredulous, seeing how different his master was in the story. While warming himself by the fire, he asked if they came for exorcism, receiving confirmation. Shiyu added while drying rations that they suspected the forbidden book that disappeared with Shun Yao had resurfaced. Perhaps Shun Yao hadn't died and was secretly watching everyone. Shiyu stood up excitedly after speaking. Suddenly the campfire went out, and he quickly raised his weapon in alert. Su Mo trembled, thinking how a simple campfire triggered a special event. Perhaps they knew too much and needed silencing. But with the former master present, they should win easily. This could be a chance to gain favor. He held Wen Chang's hand, telling him not to fear, promising protection. Unexpectedly, a possessed Wen Chang grabbed Su Mo's throat, saying this was the reward for his protection. Su Mo struggled helplessly in midair, wondering what triggered this episode. The former master stopped Shiyu from helping, noting something unusual in Wen Chang's chest. Warning against rash action, Wen Chang screamed about regaining freedom while holding Su Mo, but was immediately subdued with one palm strike. The former master ordered Shiyu to stay put. His right hand wielded the staff to restrain Wen Chang's hands, then forcefully pulled him close. With his left hand gathering internal power, he grabbed at Wen Chang, extracting the possessing spirit's remnant soul. Su Mo immediately rushed to support the collapsing Wen Chang. The former master observed his senior brother thoughtfully. Su Mo tucked Wen Chang into bed, thinking how this episode differed from the last one, suspecting his split personality had evolved again. The former master sat nearby drinking tea, comforting Su Mo not to worry, saying Wen Chang would wake up soon. Su Mo inquired about Wen Chang's condition. The former master told him his senior brother had lost a soul and would be possessed by mountain spirits. If not found soon, his life could be in danger. Hearing this news, Su Mo was shocked. At this moment, Master Gu began to suspect Su Mo's purpose for leaving the mountain and probed him with questions. Su Mo sensed danger and responded cleverly, while asking about Wen Chang's current condition. Master Gu told Su Mo that the seal on Wen Chang was broken, allowing any demon to possess him. To demons, he was like Tang Monk's flesh. Sumo's face darkened as he looked at Master Gu, who suddenly seemed absent-minded. He touched Wenchang's face and told Master Gu that his senior brother had been possessed before. The master replied that if Wenchang had been possessed before, he wouldn't be alive today. The reason he hadn't noticed might be because Wenchang was briefly sealed by someone else before. Su Mo recalled his past experiences and seemed to realize something. He found an excuse to send the former master away, then closed the door. He crouched in the room and snapped his fingers, summoning Xiao Bai, who blinked his bright eyes at Su Mo. Su Mo grabbed his tie, demanding to know if the newly unlocked character from last time was the protagonist's lost soul. Looking at the enraged Su Mo, Xiao Bai stammered nervously. The system, Xiao Bai, was very guilty and congratulated Su Mo for finally discovering the key plot. Su Mo reflected sadly on how naive he was to think catching the culprit would change personalities. Xiao Bai reminded Su Mo to focus on the conquest. If the main quest was completed without full favorability, it would be considered a failure. Su Mo was surprised and asked Xiao Bai if that was the new character's initial favorability. Xiao Bai smiled and told Su Mo he would know whose favorability mattered in the end. Finally, he warned Su Mo that some choices might seem good but not lead to bright endings, advising him to choose carefully. While Su Mo was puzzled about what kind of choices these might be, he suddenly heard Wenchang calling him. His face lit up with joy, secretly deciding to maximize favorability with whoever he could, regardless of the final criteria. Su Mo hurried to check on Wenchang, asking if he felt unwell. Seeing Wenchang's poor condition, Su Mo wanted to find Master Gu for treatment. Wenchang stopped him, saying Master Gu couldn't help, nor could their master or Master Fu. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hidden it for so many years. Su Mo comforted him, saying the master was just protecting his feelings. He also understood why the master had been so hesitant. Wenchang told Su Mo it wasn't just that. When possessed by the golden demon, he saw himself. While they were discussing Shun Yao by the campfire, the golden demon had been lurking in darkness, watching them, waiting to possess Wenchang. Wenchang saw the old Jushi town. He saw his family's tragic death. Su Mo listened intently. Through the demon's consciousness, Wenchang had seen himself from over 20 years ago. Wenchang told him that although he couldn't remember his childhood events, he recognized his younger self. The master had said he was abandoned by his parents and picked up along the way, but now it seemed that wasn't true. Su Mo suddenly stood up, telling Wenchang they should find Master Gu to see if the demon was still there. It would be better to ask directly than make wild guesses. Then, Su Mo reassuringly told Wenchang that no matter what happened, he would stay with him at Jinsu Peak. This promise would never change. Hearing this, Wenchang wished he had never left the mountain. Suddenly, a scream rang out. Wenchang immediately got up to check. Fu Yichen pulled Su Mo's hair, demanding to know why they were still at the inn 2 days after receiving the letter. Gu Nanxiu and his disciple returned from outside and were shocked by the scene. Fu Yichen turned to look at them. Both parties stared at each other in astonishment. Fu Yichen, with a serious face, respectfully bowed to Gu Nanxiu, apologizing for his disciple's mischief. Gu Nanxiu wanted to return with Fu Yichen, but Fu Yichen said his master was still in seclusion and they might not meet for a long time. Su Mo wanted Master Gu to check on his master, suspecting possession. Wenchang helplessly explained that Master Fu was just joking. Though Gu Nanxiu was sad, seeing Fu Yichen left him without regrets. He hoped they could talk privately later, which Fu Yichen agreed to. Master and disciple Gu then took their leave. After returning, Fu Yichen angrily poked Su Mo's head, scolding that he and Rong he had waited all night 2 days ago, almost building a memorial for them. Wenchang quickly explained they were delayed by something. Fu Yichen puzzledly asked Wenchang what seemed different about him after not seeing him for days. Then he suddenly praised Wenchang's hairstyle, saying it had his master's style. Suddenly, Fu Yichen realized something. Wenchang casually pushed him into a room to talk. When Su Mo tried to follow secretly, Fu Yichen poked him back, telling him to go count ants instead, as this was men's business. Then mercilessly shut him outside. Su Mo sighed helplessly and sat on the steps. He boredly poked at an anthill, thinking about his family in reality. He vaguely felt there were things here he'd be reluctant to leave. After a while, Su Mo grew very impatient. Were they in there cultivating? The anthill had turned into a wasp nest, yet they still hadn't come out. Su Mo stood up abruptly, almost falling. When Chong appeared just in time to steady him, Suemo anxiously asked if he was all right. When Chong said he was fine, Master Fu had just told him the truth. His parents were killed by demons, and thanks to the master who saved him and brought him to Sansheng Realm. The small demon had wandered in Jushi Town for years, and only after possessing him did he occasionally see those visions. Suemo didn't believe that was all they discussed. When Chong quickly changed the subject, asking why Suemo dug so many holes, wondering if he was planning to build tunnels for the ants. Fu Yichen silently watched them chat, recalling his earlier conversation with Wenchong. Fu Yichen told Wenchong that the cinnabar medicine was indeed a seal, meant to protect his body from demon possession. Wenchong eagerly asked about his parents' whereabouts. Fu Yichen said when Ronghe found him, his parents were already dead, so they had no choice but to take him back and raise him carefully. This method could only protect him temporarily, but he couldn't cultivate like others. The master feared Wenchong's resentment and thus didn't tell him. Wenchong felt ashamed that while his master had been so good to him, he had doubted him because of others. He stated that everything his master did was for his own good, and no matter what happened, he would only believe his master's words. Fu Yichen was deeply moved, saying that Rong he had truly taken in a good disciple, unlike his own 3 ugly little ones. Suddenly, Fu Yichen heard someone calling him. It was Gu Nanxiu. Gu Nanxiu said they hadn't met for 100 years, and now that they've reunited, he wanted to apologize on behalf of senior brother Zheng Yuan. Fu Yichen refused, saying this wasn't something Gu Nanxiu could apologize for. Gu Nanxiu gravely agreed that was true. Fu Yichen changed the subject, asking why they hadn't gone up the mountain since they were already at its foot. Gu Nanxiu quickly explained that he felt too ashamed to enter Sansheng Realm unless it was absolutely necessary. Fu Yichen comforted him, saying there was no need to apologize for others, and he wasn't qualified to accept such a grand gesture from a fellow disciple. Gu Nanxiu was very ashamed, but said he had questions. Fu Yichen invited him inside to talk. Inside, Fu Yichen asked what Gu Nanxiu wanted to know. After closing the door, Gu Nanxiu asked if Shun Yao could possibly come back to life. Fu Yichen said that was impossible. Shun Yao had been burned so severely in front of everyone back then. How could she possibly revive? But Gu Nanxiu believed anything was possible. After all, even a cooked duck could fly. Jushi Town was now full of killing and soul-snatching, just like Zheng Yuan back then. Fu Yichen replied absent-mindedly that when Chong was saved by his master and brought to Sansheng Realm, and the seal on him was placed during the integration. Fu Yichen was also puzzled. The seal should have been very secure. He didn't understand why it was broken. Gu Nanxiu fell into deep thought, then said he would go up the mountain with them and ask Ronghe about this personally. If what Fu Yichen said was true, he could be at ease. Fu Yichen agreed to his proposal, saying they would return to the mountain tomorrow, and Gu Nanxiu could join them. They then bid farewell. As Gu Nanxiu closed the door, thinking about Ronghe, he realized he might give Fu Yichen a big gift. Meanwhile, when Chong woke up from a nightmare, he didn't understand why he kept dreaming about his childhood after learning the truth. While opening the door, when Chong wondered who that person in his dream was. Outside, Suemo was sleeping soundly against the wall. Just as when Chong was about to wake him, Suemo suddenly opened his eyes and got up. His elbow hit Wenchong's face as he shouted about demons not daring to target his senior brother. Suddenly, he noticed Wenchong was hurt and quickly asked if he was okay, wondering what demon could have hurt Wenchong under his watch. After becoming fully awake, Suemo apologized to Wenchong, saying it wasn't intentional. Wenchong told him it was fine and asked what he was doing. Suemo told him it was a physical method of exorcism, so no demon would dare possess him. Wenchong asked if he had been guarding outside all night. Suemo quickly acted pitiful, telling him he hadn't slept at all. Then he urged Wenchong to wash up while he went to wake their master, so they could return to the mountain soon. Watching Sumo's retreating figure, Wenchong's cheeks turned red. Suddenly, Gu Nanxiu patted him on the back. Wenchong clutched his left chest and fell to his knees under Gu Nanxiu's surprised gaze. Suemo quickly helped Wenchong up, asking with concern if he was all right. Wenchong weakly told him he was fine, just didn't sleep well last night, so he lost his balance for a moment. Fu Yichen appeared behind Suemo, teasing whether this was a proposal scene or if they were already married. Then, lost in thought, he started considering ceremony arrangements and childcare matters. Seeing this, Suemo angrily called out to Fu Yichen, reminding him that Wenchong seemed unwell and asking him to come check. Fu Yichen carefully observed Wenchong, noticed his poor complexion and decided to check his pulse first. Seeing this, Gu Nanxiu immediately rushed forward, volunteering to check Wenchang's pulse. After examining, he stated that Wenchang's pulse was weak, probably due to the evil qi that entered his body a few days ago. He just needed good rest. Then Gu Nanxiu quietly told him not to disturb the young couple. He pulled Fu Yichen aside to ask when they would depart. Suemo felt something was off. He patted Wenchang's left chest. He also firmly pinched his body to confirm it was really Wenchang. Suemo stood up and told him to rest well after washing up, saying he would pack his luggage, then turn to leave. After walking away, Suemo wondered if he was being too sensitive, but he couldn't shake off his ominous feeling. Finally reaching Sansheng realm, Suemo collapsed onto the grass. Wenchang took a water bottle to fetch water for him. Fui Kinsat busy de sumo. Suemo apologized to his master, saying he now understood why master had tried so hard to prevent them from going down the mountain, and how difficult these years must have been. Fu Yichen responded that he shouldn't have forced them, as they had their own paths to follow. Suemo asked if he had prevented Wenchang from going down the mountain because of past events. Fu Yichen denied this, saying wrong he wasn't at Sansheng realm back then. Suemo was shocked and asked what he meant by wasn't there. Fu Yichen casually told him it was a few days after that incident settled. He was about to leave Sansheng realm when he heard cries for help by a stream. There was a forest fire, and someone blocked his path. He initially didn't want to help, but that person grabbed his clothes and wouldn't let go, being dragged for several miles. Having no choice, Fu Yichen took him back, and since then, he stayed at Sansheng realm. Suemo was very confused, feeling this story had a subtle familiarity. He asked what forbidden technique Xin Yao had practiced. Fu Yichen angrily replied it was a demon-hunting forbidden technique to control people's minds. Suemo tentatively asked if Master Rong had mentioned how Wenchang lost one of his souls when he rescued him from Jushi town. Fu Yichen asked what he was suspicious about. Suemo said he just wanted to confirm if he had made the wrong choice from the very beginning. Fu Yichen asked Suemo if he looked down on Wenchang because of this. Suemo said although Wenchang's soul was incomplete, he could cultivate to immortality. Fu Yichen hit him, saying they could be buried together after 100 years. Wenchang returned with water. Fu Yichen immediately stood up, saying he needed to chat with Gu Nanxiu, letting them spend time together. Suemo gestured for Wenchang to sit down. Wenchang urged him to drink the water, saying it was very sweet. Suemo mentioned that he had a question he'd been wanting to ask Wenchang. He emphasized that he didn't have to answer, but mustn't lie. Suemo asked if he had ever felt hatred after learning about his past. Facing Wenchang's confusion, Suemo explained that he had always been gentle since childhood, and remaining gentle after knowing the truth was impossible. Suemo told Wenchang that if he had thoughts of revenge, he would face it with him, hoping Wenchang wouldn't suppress his feelings. However, Wenchang shook his head, firmly stating he felt no hatred. Suemo couldn't understand this. Without a complete soul, one couldn't continue cultivation and might even face the danger of possession. Wenchang feared this, worried that if he recovered his soul, he would no longer be himself. Suemo didn't understand his concerns. So Wenchang hurriedly left, using fetching water as an excuse. Watching his retreating figure, Suemo snapped his fingers to summon System Xiaobai. He asked Xiaobai to show the affection bar. He found the affection level had reached 88. This meant he was about to complete the mission. Yet Suemo wondered why Wenchang hadn't come closer during such an emotional moment. He began to feel something was wrong. Suemo lay on the grass, hoping it was just his overthinking. He wished to complete the mission soon and leave this place, feeling he had stayed long enough. He also admitted that his earlier actions weren't just testing. His maiden heart had truly stirred. The group continued their journey, chatting while climbing the mountain. Suemo asked Gu Nanxiu why he was lagging so far behind despite not being tired. Gu Nanxiu claimed his old limbs couldn't move any faster. Fu Yichen interjected, telling Suemo that sect leader Gu was just being considerate, afraid of making him feel awkward by walking ahead. Gu Nanxiu recalled past times with melancholy. Suemo immediately apologized for reminding him of painful memories. Gu Nanxiu comforted him, saying it was fine. He would soon return to those beautiful days. Suemo was confused by the meaning of these words. Soon they reached the mountain gate, where someone was waiting for them. Just as Suemo was about to happily call out Senior Uncle, Gu Nanxiu's staff dropped behind him. He turned to see Gu Nanxiu trembling. With shaking hands, he uncertainly pointed at the distant figure, asking if that was his senior brother. Rong He criticized Fu Yichen for bringing people up the mountain without permission, especially making someone so old climb the difficult path. Fu Yichen became angry at these words, sharply retorting that Gu Nanxiu was even stronger than him. Su Mo turned to Wen Chong, softly explaining that his master would bring back people every time he left the mountain, which led to the sect leader forbidding him from going down. This was likely for economic reasons, as each additional person meant preparing more food. Su Mo and Wen Chong continued their quiet conversation, completely ignoring what sect leader Gu was saying. Suddenly, Gu Nanxiu looked up and saw Rong He, his face filled with shock. He couldn't believe his senior brother was still alive. Leaping forward, he approached Rong He, revealing his identity and hoping his senior brother would recognize him. Fu Yichen immediately moved to stop him. Gu Nanxiu warned that this was Sansheng realm, and despite his desire to reunite with his senior brother, he must be cautious. Gu Nanxiu had been wondering who could seal Wen Chong's spirit points for so long. Now he realized it was his senior brother's doing, as no one could surpass him in evil arts like the revival Jade Demon technique. Training a disciple would not have been difficult for him. Although Wen Chong had suspected his master who raised him for years might be the villain, when the truth was revealed, he felt completely lost. Suemo vachtvin unge silence. He spoke on his behalf, reminding everyone that the Zhengyuan sect had received many favors from Sansheng, asking the former sect leader not to wrongly accuse senior uncle and senior brother. He patted Wen Chong's shoulder, reminding him that if senior uncle Rong was really Xin Yao, how could Wen Chong still be alive? And even if Xin Yao were alive, he should be a centenarian by now. How could he stay as youthful as senior uncle Rong? Gu Nanxiu refuted Su Mo, pointing out that immortal cultivators don't die of old age. Fu Yichen proudly interrupted, saying his disciple took after him. At this point, Wen Chong also stepped forward to state his position. He firmly declared that his master couldn't possibly be someone as cruel as Xin Yao. However, he suddenly changed his words, saying if his master couldn't prove his innocence, he couldn't escape suspicion. Su Mo felt very angry at Wen Chong's inconsistency. But to his surprise, Wen Chong stated that since his master had raised him for over 10 years, he would never doubt him. Su Mo began to despair at Wen Chong's logic, wondering why he couldn't stick to one viewpoint. Just then, Gu Nanxiu pointed out that Wen Chong's current state was all thanks to Xin Yao. He stepped forward to remove Rong He's mask, which fell to the ground. No one believed Gu Nanxiu's words. Fu Yichen warned him not to go too far. Gu Nanxiu told Fu Yichen to first recognize who was standing before them, then judge right from wrong. Everyone was shocked to discover that Rong He's face showed the mark of Zhengyuan's successive sect leaders, undeniable evidence. Fu Yichen still refused to believe this was true. Other disciples also thought it impossible. If Rong He was really the great demon Xin Yao, how could Fu Shishu not recognize him and get along with him so well? Xin Yao no longer concealed his identity, saying he should have killed Gu Nanxiu back then. Wen Chong looked at his master in confusion, wondering if this man was really Xin Yao. Gu Nanxiu coldly pointed out that the soul fragment missing from Wen Chong was taken by Xin Yao. Since the seal was broken, Xin Yao's personality had changed dramatically, becoming more irritable and angry. This was because he had taken one of Wen Chong's soul fragments and turned it into a demon. This was precisely Xin Yao's method of revenge for past grievances. Hearing this, Wen Chong, full of disbelief, told him to shut up. However, Wen Chong's casual wave of hands stirred up a fierce wind. He was surprised by his own power. Other disciples also looked at them, filled with doubt. They remembered that Wen Chong once couldn't even defeat a small demon, but now he could make Fu Yichen's robes flutter in the wind. Gu Nanxiu scoffed, saying Xin Yao only took one of Wen Chong's soul fragments and sealed the other two to avoid Fu Yichen's detection, claiming demons were responsible. By now, Xin Yao was extremely angry. He glared at Gu Nanxiu, who dared to speak so presumptuously. Gu Nanxiu coldly retorted that Xin Yao was the one who had no right to speak, having wronged everyone present, especially Fu Yichen. After a moment of silence, Fu Yichen said he was willing to believe everything Xin Yao said. Xin Yao felt conflicted, remembering being forced into the library years ago. Though he was burned by fierce flames then, the thick smoke allowed him to escape. He floated down the river to the foot of Sansheng Mirror, seeing someone in the distance. He used magic to set fire to the distant forest, then abandoned his cultivation and hid inside, waiting for an opportunity. When Fu Yichen passed by, Xin Yao firmly held onto his robe, walking several miles before he agreed to take him back. Although Xin Yao had deceived him, those actions weren't his true intention, but rather the result of being framed. Fu Yichen had regretted the past events for 100 years, never expecting the truth to be like this. At this moment, Wen Cheng stepped forward, firmly defending his master's honor. He firmly believed his master never had any intention to harm others and would never do such things to him. Su Mo felt uneasy. He sensed something was wrong. If that soul fragment had been with Rong He all along, then who was the ghost master? Su Mo also realized the gravity of the situation. He wanted to explain, but Gu Nanxiu interrupted him. Gu Nanxiu reminded Fu Yichen to remember their fellow disciples who died tragically. He couldn't make the same mistake again. Xin Yao now understood that no matter what he said, no one would believe him, including Fu Yichen. The disciples of San Sheng angrily declared they would avenge their senior uncles. Xin Yao unhesitatingly stood in front of Wen Cheng, stating that none of this involved Wen Cheng, and he alone should bear all responsibility. Fu Yichen, worried about Su Mo's safety, told him to return to Tianqi Peak immediately and not get involved. But Su Mo chose to stand with Wen Cheng, unwilling to see him wrongly accused. Gu Nanxiu was still trying to persuade Xin Yao to give up resistance, but Xin Yao's heart was filled with hatred. He regretted not killing Gu Nanxiu for his master back then. Gu Nanxiu ordered Fu Yichen to take Wen Cheng's soul fragment and execute him on the spot. Without any hesitation, Xin Yao immediately turned to find Wen Cheng. He couldn't let Wen Cheng be harmed. However, at that moment, Gu Nanxiu, holding a sharp sword, viciously stabbed Xin Yao in the back. Not only did Fu Yichen doubt Xin Yao, but Xin Yao had never fully trusted Fu Yichen either. Everyone watched as the wounded Xun Yao fell to the ground. Fu Yichen was stunned. He never expected Gu Nanxiu would draw his sword against his own senior brother. Gu Nanxiu hurriedly explained that he had no choice. If they didn't use some means to distract Xin Yao, they couldn't subdue him. Xin Yao weakly knelt on the ground, covering his wound. Other disciples discussed among themselves. They questioned Fu Shishu's judgment in mistaking an enemy for a friend. They remarked how fortunate it was that sect leader Gu noticed in time, or they might have remained deceived. Wen Cheng rushed forward to support Xin Yao, his face full of worry. Xin Yao sighed painfully, regretting not killing Gu Nanxiu back then, which led to today's disaster. Su Mo's gaze fell on Xin Yao as she lay in Wen Cheng's arms. Su Mo felt an inexplicable bitterness. This was the treatment she had once fantasized about receiving as the protagonist. Gu Nanxiu proposed taking away Xin Yao and Wen Cheng. Fu Yichen immediately refused, stating San Sheng would handle this matter themselves. At this moment, Wen Cheng suddenly appeared dazed, and Su Mo anxiously called out to him. Wen Cheng fell back into that strange dream where the figure identical to him claimed it would possess his body. Su Mo, desperate, suddenly slapped Wen Cheng, trying to wake him up. Wen Cheng slowly opened his eyes and suddenly greeted Su Mo. Su Mo instantly realized something was wrong. The Wen Cheng before him was no longer the person he knew. The soul-possessed Wen Cheng tightly embraced Su Mo, playing with his hair. Su Mo was terrified and pushed away forcefully. He ran to Fu Yichen's side seeking protection. Gu Nanxiu unhesitatingly raised his weapon and launched a fierce attack at Wen Cheng. Su Mo remembered Xiao Bai's warning and quickly stood in front of Wen Cheng, determined to protect him. However, Gu Nanxiu didn't stop. Seeing this, Fu Yichen immediately stepped forward and firmly grabbed his weapon, warning him not to harm his disciple. Gu Nanxiu explained that his attack was too forceful and he couldn't stop in time. Su Mo suddenly realized. He remembered outside Jushi town, Gu Nanxiu had intended to kill him. He was the ghost master. Gu Nanxiu was unfazed by Su Mo's revelation, instead praising his cleverness, saying he was indeed like Shun Yao's disciple. Su Mo felt extremely angry at Gu Nanxiu's actions. He believed this person didn't deserve to be called master. Gu Nanxiu was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected Su Mo would still have the spirit to curse at him. He reminded Su Mo that even Fu Yichen and Wen Chong combined were no match for him. At this moment, other disciples suddenly hit Gu Nanchio's barrier, finally realizing they had chosen the wrong side. Just then, Wen Chong suddenly launched a powerful attack, making everyone notice his presence. Meanwhile, Su Mo was pushed to the ground. Su Mo was furious. He questioned why they always resorted to sneak attacks despite having such high combat abilities. Gu Nanchio mocked him for being too naive. For him, giving notice before attacking was for dueling, not killing. Hearing this, Fu Yichen finally realized that Gu Nanchio was the one controlling people's minds. Gu Nanchio began reminiscing about the past. He and Shun Yao had both studied under the same master. Though they learned the same things, Shun Yao surpassed him in both cultivation and character. Even so, he hadn't harbored hatred until their master died. He wanted to use soul cultivation to resurrect their master, but Shun Yao discovered this. When Shun Yao disagreed with his actions, Gu Nanchio stopped caring about Shun Yao's fate. Gu Nanchio thought everything would go smoothly afterward. However, years ago in Jushi Town, he had finally found a baby with special constitution, but he was intercepted midway and failed. Recognizing the technique as Sansheng Pure Arts, he sent people to track down the baby. Originally, Gu Nanchio thought that person was ruthless enough to kill the baby to prevent future troubles. Until he saw the seal between Wen Chong's eyebrows disappear, he realized the child hadn't died. So he began planning how to gain their trust and be brought up the mountain. Outside the Jushi formation, Gu Nanchio's real target wasn't Wen Chong, but Su Mo. Only Su Mo's death would enrage Fu Yichen. Upon learning the truth, he would kill Shin Yao without mercy and direct his anger at Wen Chong. This way, Gu Nanchio could naturally take away the demonized Wen Chong and gain a good reputation in the cultivation world for cleaning house. Gu Nanchio expressed appreciation for Su Mo's intelligence. He waved his hand, determined to have everyone present killed. The disciples of San Sheng began killing each other. Fu Yichen watched the chaos, remembering the past. 100 years ago, he was helpless as they fell one by one, but now he would do everything to save them. Fu Yichen launched an attack, but was blocked by the out-of-control Wen Chong. The two began fighting. Su Mo watched the chaotic battle scene, not knowing what to do. He hoped Wen Chong would wake up for the sake of their past relationship and not let his mind be controlled by evil. However, Wen Chong ignored him and continued confronting Fu Yichen. Su Mo felt helpless and desperate. He cried out Wen Chong's name, but Wen Chong didn't respond. At this crucial moment, Xiao Bai reminded him to try the previously mentioned method to increase favorability. Though hesitant, with Xiao Bai's encouragement, he decided to give it a try. He shouted at Wen Chong that his former senior brother was a coward. And that day after day, year after year, he had to look at the same faces, and he hated everyone on this mountain. Sure enough, when Wen Chong heard Su Mo's words, his favorability rating increased. Su Mo endlessly praised Wen Chong, saying even his back view was handsome and heroic, perfect from head to toe. However, Wen Chong was distracted by these sweet words, allowing Fu Yichen to take the opportunity to attack him. As he fell to the ground, Su Mo quickly rushed to Wen Chong's side. Wen Chong wiped the blood from his mouth, planning to deal with Fu Yichen first before spending time with Su Mo. However, Su Mo tied Wen Chong's hands together. While Su Mo was loudly praising Wen Chong and the favorability rating kept rising, he and Xiao Bai had exchanged the life-saving artifact. Xiao Bai gave Su Mo a diagram showing a sealing method that could completely seal away a personality. The favorability would be based on the final remaining personality. Su Mo could choose to give up and continue pursuing while maintaining the status quo. But he decided to take the risk and try to bring back the original Wen Chong. Gu Nanchio never expected Su Mo to know sealing techniques and became furious. Soon after, all disciples regained their senses. Just as Gu Nanchio was about to act, Fu Yichen placed his sword against his neck and killed him with one strike. However, Su Mo was also severely injured, lying weakly in Wen Chong's arms. He was satisfied because he had finally done something a protagonist should do. Seeing Su Mo's terrible condition, Fu Yichen dropped his sword and rushed to his side. Wen Chong kept apologizing to Su Mo, regretting that he had ever left the mountain. However, Su Mo believed that this was how he was able to find Wen Chong again. He choked up, worried about Master and Uncle Rong's safety. Fu Yichen kept trying to heal him, but Suemo told him not to waste his energy. Once, he always viewed this world as a world of paper characters, but he began to wonder if Wenchong was like himself. Wenchong held Suemo tightly, promising that after his recovery, he would never leave the mountain again and would stay to accompany him. Suemo caressed Wenchong's face and slowly kissed the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, Sumo's arm fell lifelessly to the ground. Wenchong held Suemo tightly, unable to let go. However, soon after, his body disappeared. Finally, Suemo achieved the 1 life, 3 passes achievement. Before he could process it, he clung tightly to Xiao Bai's leg, saying he didn't want to become a rooster that had to crow every morning, as he couldn't wake up early. Xiao Bai fully respected Sumo's wishes, giving him complete freedom regarding gender. He set up the reincarnation location properly. Suemo was reluctant to part with Xiao Bai, wanting to engrave his appearance into his DNA. Xiao Bai gently flicked his finger to send him away. This time he didn't kick him. Xiao Bai looked at Sumo's file with deep emotion. This was just one last small prank before parting. They would never meet again in this life. Back in reality, Suemo woke up. He had swallowed the cake by himself. Then he sat up in bed. He hadn't fully understood the situation yet, thinking he had really reincarnated as a chicken. The doctor excitedly grabbed his hand, telling him this was a rare case. They had never seen a patient who could swallow the obstruction and wake up after being unconscious for 20 minutes. It was a medical miracle. Just then, a cough came from the next bed, another patient who had choked on food. Wenchong only then realized that he had completed the mission and was still alive. Suemo and Wenchong saw each other and embraced tightly with excitement. The doctor asked them both to get off the stretchers as they needed them for other patients. It turned out they both died in accidents and were chosen by heaven to participate in the script test. However, Wenchong's script required him to survive through 3 scenarios, and his memory would be wiped before each one began. If Suemo had chosen to give up the main personality, then Wenchong would be gone now, and the boyfriend given to her would no longer exist. Suemo joked about asking Xiao Bai for a refund, but Wenchong pinched his face and warned him not to talk nonsense. Suemo leaned on Wenchong's shoulder and asked his real name. His surname in real life was Yang. His parents hoped he would grow up to be strong and determined, so they named him Yangguang de Suemo, and Yang Guangdao walked home hand in hand. Perhaps sometimes, the person who passes by you might quietly appear in your dreams in the near future and stay there forever.